It's time for a little Saturday morning fun time! Your show manager is Martin Acosta Santana and John Aaron Schmidt. And your producer is Martin Acosta Santana.
And then his name.
I'm your announcer, the Comic Relief Crusader. And now, your hosts, Tom and Gerry. Gary.
Ma, I'm doing a show.
There we go. I haven't played that one.
Yeah.
So it is us, and we're here to talk about that thing in the corner there. 1976 version. In fact, we're going to be talking about the 3 hour and 10-minute version that was on network television. It was
over
longer,
2 nights.
Yeah, over 2 nights. And that's what Dino De Laurentiis wanted. You tell him about that, man. That's interesting what he did.
Well, it's a way of making more money. Basically.
He is.
Yeah. And he was one of the more notorious ones for this. He wasn't the only one who did it, but Warner Brothers actually did it with Superman as well. So this is a 3-hour cut of the film that has like a handful of new scenes added to it. There's some repetition in shots. I don't know if you'll notice as we go along here.
Oh, yeah.
Because we'll be watching stills. But
definitely like when he's walking through New York, I noticed they showed the same shot twice.
Yeah, they do that a lot, actually, in a few bits, if you catch it. But the reason for that is when they would show it on TV, they would crop it off. So they would show like one side of the screen or the other side of the screen as an alternative. And then, sometimes I'm sure they might just repeat shots just for added padding. But I've learned this more and more as I'm going through and recutting the TV cut with the 4K scan of the movie. How much stuff they just repetitively cut in just to pad out the first few minutes. And for instance, there's over a minute of just added nonsensical stuff that is just the same shots over and over again and stuff. But yeah,
that's very wild though. And I figured it was just for the padding is what they were doing it for.
That's really what it was. It was just for the padding. But then you do have some substantial scenes that come up that, for kids like us growing up, specifically in like the late 70s, early 80s, when this first came on television and would show every once in a while after that, if you taped it or whatever off television, which I did for years, this was the version of the film that I knew. Right. When I first saw it on home video cut down, I was like, well, what's this? Sure, I got to see some titties, but a third of the movie's missing, like it felt like. But yeah.
In the TV version, some of the gore is tamed down, and then of course,
a couple swear words in the titties
is just side boob. It's like really nothing massive like you got with the original film.
Well, I did send you some screenshots. There's some full on tit shots when Kong pulls down her top, but they cut that out of the TV version.
And I got to point out that Kong really looks like a perv in some scenes.
Oh yes,
yeah. Oh.
Well, really, it's that damn smiley face. If they wouldn't have used that smiley face, I don't think it would have been so bad. That
he smiles and his eyes get really gleeful looking,
like a creepy smile going on.
Right.
40 years later, they're still having problems getting those eyes to track and look right.
Well, but the eyes are those. What's funny is we'll get into it. The eyes are those of special effects guru. Rick Baker.
Yeah,
they had actually cast. Yeah, they actually had cast a completely other actor to play the role. I can't remember his name, but he was I think he was like a linebacker or something like that. A football player turned actor. I can't remember his name, but
OJ.
Yeah, no, not OJ, but yeah, I can't remember that. I can't remember who it was, but like I can't remember what it was about.
Cusack?
Yeah. I can't remember what it was about Rick Baker, but they liked him better in the suit. And the hilarious thing about this was, and Rick Baker tells this story all the time, was he was working with Joe Dante when he first heard they were going to be remaking Kong, and they're actually going to be making. There was 2 Kong remakes in the process at the same time. I'm sure we'll get deeper into this as well. But so he was working on Schlock with Joe Dante, of course, of Gremlins and the Burbs and stuff
Which
like
is
that.
where he did his first
And the
gorilla
Howling.
suit.
Yep, which is where he did his first gorilla suit. And they said he was talking to him about it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I hear they're going to be remaking King Kong," and he's like, "Oh God, I hope not." And he goes, they're just going to use some idiot in a suit, right? And he goes, "Little did I know I was going to be that idiot in a suit."
And of
So
course,
yeah,
to
they
go
had gotten
back-
Rob Bottin, and I can't remember who else to work on it, and Rick Baker came in a little later in the process, and they basically had like Bottin and Baker competing with each other because they had 2 separate kind of ideas of what they wanted for Kong. Dino De Laurentiis, I think, wanted it to be more like a humanoid ape, as opposed to the
a hybrid.
wanted
Yeah.
it to be Guillermo del, however you say his name.
Guillermo del Toro.
I always could mix them up the 2. I don't want to say the other one, but it's John Gellerman. Yes. Anyway, he wanted a more actual ape-like ape, right? And if Rick would have had his way, he says he would have done what he did in Mighty Joe Young. Now,
Which is
anybody who's seen
perfect,
the
by the
remake
way.
of Mighty Joe Young, that is effing amazing. That stuff was so good there. People couldn't tell if it was CGI or real at the time. It was like,
His
no,
gorilla work
90%
in
of
Mighty
that
Joe Young
is
was
all a
phenomenal.
costume.
It was great, man.
Okay, I have the TV promo spot for.
So yeah,
Let's
so
go ahead
those of
and
us who were
run it.
fortunate to be alive at the time might remember this.
That music brings so much memory.
This is an ancient ruin.
He wants to make a deal. 6 of them for Dwan.
I'm willing to bet my life.
And now on NBC Saturday Night at the Movies, King Kong.
The old NBC logo thingy.
Now, before we go any further, I was wanting to say something a minute ago. Is because Rick Baker's eye lenses, the way he did them, I thought it was great that Carlo Rambaldi matched the eyes on the giant Kong, and you don't really get to see that until the end of the film, where you see dead Kong laying
Yeah.
there, and the eye lenses match.
Somebody
what Rick
stole one
Baker
of the
did.
eyes of Dead Kong.
Oh, really?
Yeah, while they were making it. Yeah, I'll get to that when we get to the bit, but yeah. There's another story about the lenses too, which is funny, but yeah.
All right, we'll get to that.
Kong, Kong, Kong! You heard him chant that. He exists, right? Now, who do you think they're planning to give that girl to?
And now, on the NBC Sunday big event, King Kong. King Kong
And now it
will
just shows all the
return following these messages.
interstitials. You can cut it off there if you want to.
All right, there you go.
Okay.
Good.
And then it shows like the like next time on King Kong because it cut it in half or whatever. So it also had like the next time and But yeah. So yeah, for if you watched it, you got cut off.
So when
Just-
did Bottin become a competitor to Rick Baker? Because I knew he was a student of Rick Baker's.
Or was it Carlos Rambaldi? I'm sorry, I meant Rambaldi. Did I say
Carlos
Bottin?
Rambaldi.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because Bottin studied under Rick Baker.
Yeah. No, it was. I think Bottin might have worked on it, but I was
Oh,
thinking
there's no doubt.
Rambaldi.
When this movie was made, he was he was a kid working for.
Okay, so then he wouldn't have been working on it yet. No, so that was Rambaldi and Baker. My bad. I meant that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But Carlo Rambaldi, yeah, he
And Rambaldi's big excuse
who
all
he
the
is.
time was, I got to make the big one. So I didn't have enough time to work on the other one.
Yeah, and it's almost so reminiscent of Jaws with Bruce the shark not working because they had so many problems with this giant.
Well,
gorilla.
and it was not Carlos's fault. He flat out told him he would need X amount of money and 3 years to build the damn thing. They're like, well, you got this much money in 1 year to build the damn thing. So it didn't work. It did not work at all. It's only in 4 shots in the entire movie. But the hilarity of it is the fact that they used it so heavily in all the advertising and like anything you've seen written up about the movie, they really tried to sell the idea that the entire movie was this hydraulic machine Kong, and it wasn't
itself. At the end, they go, Kong was designed and built by Carlo Rambaldi, and special thanks to Rick Baker for his input.
And you know why that is because Rick Baker bitched because nobody knew he did the ape stuff because they had sold this idea that Carlos Rambaldi's machine was the one that was throughout the entire movie. Now, most people could tell as soon as the movie came out that was horseshit, or you could start to tell as it was going along. So they're like, yeah, you cannot hide the fact that Rick Baker was the guy who did this, right? Like, he deserves some credit. So he was pressured into giving him some sort of credit at the end. So they gave him that acknowledgement.
But it's clearly there, he wanted to keep the lie going. And even I fell for it as a kid. I was in elementary school when it came out, and I'm like sitting there with all my friends, like, can you believe they did that? Can you believe that? It didn't happen the way we thought it did. It was not the giant gorilla for the movie. It was
and a lot of it was just because Dino De Laurentiis refused to let them do any stop motion, right? Like that was his big hang up. He's like, we're not going to do any stop motion because that was, the way the original Kong was created. So like Gary's right. Like Dino and the studio were trying to really sell this idea that this movie was made with this big hydraulic King Kong through the whole thing. Yeah.
And Baker did a fantastic job. There are some problems with the suit that I have, but I'm certain that he was pressured into doing the suit that way because of the fact of Dino De Laurentiis was really hands-on.
Well, they've never done this extensive of that kind of an extensive of a suit before, with the animatronics. And that's the other thing is people really overlooked this movie because it was a movie that came between Jaws and Star Wars. So it comes at a time where they had not really known how to do any of this animatronic stuff. Opticals were still in their infancy to a way, like compared to what, a year later, George Lucas would invent, the computer controlled cameras to where he could do multiple passes and stuff like that. To where the way they put this movie together, and then you had Superman 2 years after that. I mean, this movie did a lot of that kind of stuff before those guys were, but it never gets any credit for it, especially considering how much they combined. Within some shots, you've got 2 or 3 different ways that they're combining Jessica Lange with the full-sized Kong hand.
The composite shots were
with a composite with a
see the giant hand holding her, then a background, and then
the background too. Yeah,
Rick Baker in the foreground. So you had 3 composites to 4 composites. It's pretty amazing what they pulled off.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So like considering what they pulled off with this film, you can tell why it really blew people's minds when it did come out. Now we look at it and it's obviously just a guy in an ape suit, right? Like it's nothing special, but yeah.
So, but Carlo Rambaldi, I mean, would you like to go into what's so cool about him and some of the things he worked on that we know him for?
Yes.
Well, go ahead.
Carlos Rambaldi made E.T. That is true.
That turd.
He worked on and he based it on a cat's head.
He worked on Alien and Close Encounters. I think he designed the creature in Conan the Destroyer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
Dagroth or whatever it was called. Yeah,
The
he created
Dogoth
that.
or whatever, yeah.
And
No, yeah, he's worked on a lot of stuff. Trying to
he
think.
worked on
otherwise.
Dune.
Yep.
He helped create the worms.
No, I don't know if he's
Sandworms.
credited, but did he ever work on the Planet of the Apes films? I'm trying to remember.
Not that I can.
Yeah, he might not. And that's another thing the TV version of this does. It cuts a few shots out of order so they can reuse them differently too. Like that shot you just saw there was actually a shot that's from later in the opening. And then this is a shot that's not even in the other version, but then it cuts to a shot that is. It's like, yeah, it's really messed up how they recut this whole thing.
I was shocked that we could find the subtitles for the 3-hour cut.
Well, yeah, that was the problem we were running into in the version I sent you.
Martin found it too, because I found it and then Martin found it. And what you had to look for is the special TV cut. And that's how we found them. Or that's how I found it.
So here's our first additional scene, basically. And this is how Jeff Bridges' Jack character gets his shirt, which Charles Grodin bitches about. He's like, how did anybody just get our shirts? Do you kind of you issue a shirt, you think you got yeah. So this is how he got the shirt at least. So you get that idea. Clearly pays the bartender to drug one of the guys from the boat. This is actually our intro to Jack then, compared to what we get in the movie, which is this shot here, which is actually an alternate shot in the TV cut, believe it or not. That's another thing I found out a lot is there's a lot of alternate cuts that are a little bit longer, right?
Yeah.
Like here, because he doesn't even have his line here that's in the theatrical cut. Because Jack goes, "How you doing?" or whatever. He just says it or whatever, like he's all
And then
drunk. He doesn't
drops the money.
Yeah, this is a completely different take of that. Yeah.
And that's kind of neat to me because we're getting to see alternate versions of scenes.
See, and there was
Maybe
just
not
like a
fair.
little extra added of the teletyper, and then the scene that's in there is cut in the movie, but it's all in a little different order. I think his meeting is also cut in a different order when we get to that part too. Charles Grodin's when he meets with the boat and when Jack comes in the room. There's a lot more added with Jack's stuff, actually. Him and Kong get a lot of the majority of the additional scenes.
And I'm kind
Dude,
of
that's a shot that's used more than once.
I'm a big Charles Grodin fan. Love his work.
You shouldn't have wired me. We're bringing him the big one. So this movie has quite the history to it because, as we mentioned up front, there was 2 King Kong remakes going into production at the same time. Universal had one and Paramount was doing one. And the issue was nobody quite knew where the rights laid because the character himself had fallen into public domain, I guess. But the story was owned by Universal because they owned the book rights. But then RKO owned the picture, so they owned the movie. It's a real it's a convoluted bit that still gets in the way of Kong to this day. But Universal's, I don't remember exactly what happened, but it fell apart behind the scenes, even though they took Paramount to court. And in the end, Paramount basically ended up having to pay part of the profit from this film to Universal, believe it or not, which is weird. Because nowadays King Kong is actually owned by Warner Brothers via RKO, but yeah, at that time RKO wasn't owned by Warner Brothers yet. So, but yeah, so that kind of happened, and then Dino De Laurentiis won that out, and his whole thing was he hired Glarman because he had just done The Towering Inferno, and Dino really wanted to get the disaster movie vibe into this movie, and that's why you have the broadcast, the setup the way it is. you know, it has a very kind of you know, not Towering Inferno, but what's the one on the boat? The other one.
Poseidon Adventure.
Poseidon.
Poseidon Adventure. That's the other one he did too. So it has like kind of a vibe of the Poseidon Adventure a bit to it. You really kind of feel that in the film, and that's what Dino wanted. But his other big thing was, you know, he's trying to cash in on this big movie idea, like with Jaws, right? And in his
Well,
whole,
that's what he was, though, Tom.
yeah,
Dino
but he has a
Del
very
Laurentiis was the
famous
big
saying though
epic
that
hero.
went around, and the famous saying was, "In the Jaws, when the shark died, nobody cried, but when in King Kong, when the monkey dies, everybody gonna cry." So that was his whole thing. He wanted to make sure the audience cried when King Kong died. So
And you know what? I still get weepy in that scene when he dies. I still do.
well, and we talk about politics too, and this movie has a lot of politics in it. For the time,
Kissing Chris's head.
Oh my goodness.
oh, hello, Chris.
Oh,
Gentlemen, thought I would
I'm
hop
bad,
in.
dude. I
Now
don't know
you're
how
somebody
something
who's
to
done a
say.
lot of special effects, and you've done stop motion animation.
Well,
So,
yeah, and this is
I'm
kind
glad
of one
you're
of
here.
those things. I have a little bit of a different history with this because I grew up in Thousand Oaks, which is just north of Los Angeles. So one of the things that we would always do if we had guests, being a English transplant, had a lot of guests from England come, and we would always go to Universal Studios. So they built at the time, again, Tom, you were talking about the whole thing with Carlos Rambaldi being kind of pushed out there as the guy that was doing all this giant size animatronics. And that was also to kind of push the Universal Studios theme park because their big attraction was you would ride on the tram, and after you saw Jaws leap out of the water, you would go into the sound stage where they had a full-size Kong that would shake the bridge that the tram was on. And they even went so far to give him banana breath. You'd go riding out of there with the smell of bananas. So, you know, it's interesting because there's always kind of that theme park aspect of it that, you know, it's almost like the movie was, in a way, a commercial for that. Because if I'm not wrong, the studios make a hell of a lot more money on the theme park attractions than
Actually, I think King Kong Lives was more of a commercial for that because the King Kong ride didn't debut till the late 80s. But a lot of the technology that Rambaldi was using, I know, in the Kong thing is what they were ended up using eventually in theme parks because that's where he was getting a lot of that technology from. And he flat out said, I ain't got enough time to do this. I'd need like 3 years to put this together, is what he was saying. Like, they just didn't give him any time to do it.
The attraction was really cool, though. I think I actually credit Universal Studios a lot for me wanting to get into special effects because they would have that, but they would have this weird little, like a lot of people kind of groaned when it happened, but in the middle of the tram tour, the tram would stop at this building and they'd have everyone unload into it. And they would show you how they did motion control camera stuff for Battlestar Galactica. And they would show you this behind the scenes, which was Rick Baker making Harry from Harry and the Hendersons. And they'd actually have an animatronic head that you could see and they would operate it for you. You know, so of course I was, I don't know, 10 years old at the time, maybe tops, when all this stuff was going on. So my memory of it does kind of all run together. I do remember thinking that King Kong Lives was kind of corny, but it was fascinating that they had him like lifting people up and snapping them in half and then eating them like snacks. I don't know. So weird time for Kong.
I'll say this, that you know, Universal had an impact on many of us because I almost went into effects, you know, because Craig Edwards and I, we were doing stuff together as teenagers, and he would eventually go on to work in film and TV, whereas I went the art way. But we both aspired to do special effects because of Universal.
Yeah, that was, I mean, back then you didn't really get much in behind the scenes unless it was a special about it. And if I do recall, and Tom, you probably actually know this, you probably have the knowledge of this, but did they actually do a special where they kind of, what would you call it? Like
behind the scenes thing? I don't recall them doing anything.
That is something I have never been able to find, and I don't think they did. Those weren't exactly the most popular things yet, though. I mean, they would once in a while do like 5-minute show reels for things, but I don't think Kong ever got one. So yeah,
No, and I would have seen it if they had.
Now,
Never came out.
I got to ask you just kind of as a segue, and I apologize. I'm actually working, speaking of filmmaking, I'm actually working right now on the animated movie that I'm doing. And I'm putting together a little pitch to get a certain talent that I've been gunning for a while. I'm going to pitch her with this. So if I'm like looking around, but I wanted to ask, I sent a link a while ago, maybe 2-3 weeks ago when you guys were originally going to do the show, for something called Steel and Love. Did you guys get
yes. Yeah,
Did you?
we
Yes,
show it in the previous show.
Oh, you did show it in the previous show.
Yeah, we
Okay,
showed
cool.
it.
Yeah.
Because I thought that was just awesome that Tom Woodruff got to actually animate. Or first, they let him do something with the Mighty Joe Young armature, and then they let him do the actual King Kong.
I saw that.
Yeah.
But wasn't the armature the same armature?
It was the same armature. It was given, like, he was given special permission to use it, and he animated it. And I thought he did a really nice homage, having it kind of come back to life and see the pictures of Fay Ray. And
we watched that last week.
Yeah. So I'm glad you got to see that, because I was really excited about it.
Tom, I know time runs weird for you. That was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah. That.
Oh, time runs weird for me as well. And Miss Stormy.
Hey, Martine, would you do me a favor and read the names of everybody in our chat right now and do a greeting, please?
Oh, do you really want me to butcher the names? Okay. We have Anima Confused. We have Penny, Dragon Ruse, Jonathan Hancock, The Ginger Menace. I love that name. Just Atmosphere. Some guy, Christopher Moonlight or something. I don't know.
He's really like, the ladies love it when he lifts the weights.
Yeah. We have Sax. I owe you your video. I will get there. We have Taylor Swift greater than Disney, Star Wars, and MCU. We have DJ Ronnie G. We have Darrell Brewer. We have Read by Nature. Andy Morrow is with us. Tim Talks. The lovely Sherry. We have Alabama Hellbilly. Nice name. And I think that's it. And
did we say the Ginger Menace?
Yes.
Yes.
I said.
Oh, okay. I missed that one. Sorry. Yeah, it's a good one.
And give Kyle some video.
Yes.
Hey, fuck you, Kyle.
Yay.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Did it run? Okay.
But yeah,
StreamYard is acting weird.
Another bit of history I forgot and jumped over in this. Part of the reason why I believe Universal was also planning their own Kong film at the same time was you have two accounts of how this movie came to be. Michael Eisner at that time was working as a producer in Hollywood, and he had taken the idea around to Universal and Paramount and a few other places, and supposedly at the same time, and both can be true, Dino De Laurentiis was putting his kids to bed, and he noticed that his daughter had a King Kong poster on her wall, and he'd been looking for like the next Jaws kind of movie, right? He's like, that's it. I'll remake King Kong, you know? And so that's kind of the story that goes with how this movie got started. But yeah, but Michael Eisner actually supposedly had a little history with this as well.
And those of you who don't know, Michael Eisner is also the former head of Disney.
And then, of course, Meryl Streep almost got the part of Dwan. Barbara Streisand reportedly desperately wanted the part of Dwan. But I don't know if this is true or not. But Dino De Laurentiis said, this is supposedly what Dino said when he heard that she wanted the role. There's not enough room in this movie for two monsters.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's great.
Now, was this kind of on Dino's like downturn as a producer? He hadn't yet done Dune yet.
No, this was before that. Yeah, this is before Dune. This is before Conan. This is before all of his big 80s films. So this is him on his way up, actually, basically. Yeah.
It was more his daughter.
Now, I do believe also the name Dwan was changed to Dwan because of the licensing. and writes.
Well, I don't know. The original
And
character's name
Darrow.
was and Darrow.
Darrow
So
was the character's name.
and Jack also, is kind of like, I think the same first, but that part they decided themselves because they had the rights to be able to do whatever they wanted with the story. It was, I can't remember whose idea it was to set it more to modern age, but it makes sense. And that's one of the reasons why this one sticks out to me. I mean, one of the things that people got to understand is, like I said, I grew up with this version, right? It wasn't until like when I brought it up last week, I was like 10, 11, 12 when I finally seen the original King Kong for the first time. Now, of course, I do believe that's the superior version, in my opinion, but this one does have a special place in my heart. And this one works so well because I believe the setup is a little bit more believable than the original King Kong. Now I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with the original King Kong, but I think that it would make more sense. Like, this oil company finds out about this island that's been hidden for years. They've got a good idea that there's probably oil. They're going to go at any expense to get this thing. Instead of the girl being a part of the mission to begin with, she's picked up, as a not castaway, but that would be, castaway, floating in the ocean. So, there's that part of it adds a little bit more credence to it. What was that?
What do you think happened to that boat she was on? I mean, she just kind of shows up with the story like, and then I went outside and it just blew up.
Okay, in this version, there's a big storm, and that is when the boat, the yacht, have the accident because they get the SOS on the radio.
Yep.
Okay.
It's kind of
Thank you.
As far as
they cut the deep throat part out of this one though. I can't remember. I think they do.
I remember them saying that in the version I saw.
Okay, then maybe they didn't. Okay.
I don't remember.
Because my dad
whose
had to
life was
explain to
saved
me
by
what that
deep
was.
throat. I love that.
It's interesting because Kong is a concept that you can really it's a lot harder to get an audience to accept in general. I think that's what Peter Jackson had trouble with, even though he kind of set it back in the original era of the first Kong movie. Was essentially the idea that there would be a uncharted island, because now we live in a world where everything's charted for the most part.
You really could barely make it now.
It would have to be, I think the only thing that we still have that could be like that is wouldn't make any sense for Kong to show up in, but it's like Antarctica, because there's still things that unexplored regions there that we see weird things by satellite, and there's theories about lost cities there and that sort of thing, which is oddly still plausible. But the idea
I think a big black gorilla would show it in contrast with the stark white environment.
He's hairy enough.
I actually have a concept of how to do a more modernized version, but even my concept, you'd still have to set in either like the 80s or early 90s, or at least the early parts of satellite, right? Because even this film is in the early parts of satellite, and that's kind of the point. So, I mean, even my version would almost probably be kind of almost half-assed paying homage to this. And the only big difference I would have would be you have a bunch of archaeologists and college students who find out about this island, and they want to go check it out because they think it might have a bunch of archaeological things on there that haven't changed in all this time, so they can actually study things and plants and fossils as they were without any disturbance from man. And of course, then the rest of the movie plays out the same from there. Basically, Denham in this version would just be a rich guy who wants to fund the expedition, basically. And Anne's character is just another one of the scientists in my version. But that's about the only other difference I would change. From there on out, the movie pretty much plays the same to get to the island and, so on. And then, of course, Denham gets the idea to just drag Kong back and all that business. But even that version, you'd have to set in the 70s or 80s.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's funny being... It's a strange time to be born in the 70s, because you're kind of coming out of the technological plateau that was, say, the 40s through the 60s. You're starting to get things like satellite, video games, color TV is now a common thing. CDs are about to be invented, and now we've taken this huge leap forward where while I'm talking to you from another state, and working on computer programs, high resolution graphics. The only other way to do it, I mean, kind of what you're describing, and forgive me, and I actually do like this movie, so I'm not saying it to like downplay what you said, but it's kind of like Aliens versus Predator. It's kind of the same sort of thing. It's like got this team together, these different minds funded by Lance Henriksen's character to go to this remote area and then discover some like an old temple.
It's a basic kind of idea.
Which it's funny. I always say Aliens versus Predator works well as a Predator sequel, not an Alien sequel. But I did enjoy that movie and that concept. And the only other way that you could kind of get away with it is to set it in space, which is essentially what Prometheus is just a remake of Aliens versus Predator. But it's like, I don't know, like, is Kong in space? It sounds kind of cheesy, but they're You're talking to someone who loves movies like Forbidden Planet and Robinson Crusoe on Mars and what's the other one? Planet of the Vampires, stuff like that.
Those
too.
are classic films.
Yeah, but there's a little bit of hokiness to them, but they play them straight and they become wonderful. So, and I think King Kong is something that, again, Peter Jackson's mistake is I think he tried to take it a little too seriously, make it a little too grounded, and therefore we couldn't enjoy it quite as much. Even the characters in the 70s Kong, it's like the scene that stands out most in my mind is the guy that keeps making fun of him because the oil isn't ready to,
Yes.
Oh, it just needs a little bit more cooking. Yeah.
Yeah.
10,000 years. Yes, it is.
That is
Yes,
Odo.
it is.
Oh, by the way,
Great
I
character
want to
actor. Yeah, I would not. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name because it's like
Rene
Rene Auberjonois.
Yeah.
there you go.
Rene Auberjonois.
Foreign guy.
Guys, I would like to use this opportunity to greet our friend Jedi Bill. Hey, Bill.
Hey, Bill.
How are you doing?
Hope you're feeling better, buddy.
Hello, buddy.
Hiya, Bill.
And there you
And
have it.
also, Alabama
Odo.
Hillbilly is here too.
AKA Clayton Endicott.
Thank you, Teague, for doxing Alabama Hillbilly.
Yeah. Okay. He's the lieutenant governor from Benson, ladies and gentlemen. It's his secret's out.
I got it.
Well, at least one of his secrets.
Now look at that picture. I mean, weren't the 70s and 80s just better?
Well, yeah, and even though this film does have a lot of political overtones to it, they're not like shoved down your throat.
Very anti-corporate.
Very anti-corporate. There's a bit of a hippy dippy element with Jeff Bridges' character and the animal conservation. You got a environmental message in it, especially with the oil versus, the hippies. And you even have that scene where, Jeff Bridges tells him, if you do that, the kids will burn every Petrox station from here to the coast. Like even then we knew that kids were, would go crazy over stupid stuff politically. But I mean, that being said, Jeff Bridges playing this role the way he was going so against the type, right? Like normally you would have like a Burt Reynolds or somebody like that in his role. And to have Jeff Bridges come in and basically play Jeff Bridges in this role was so different for the time, I think.
Yeah, even then, though, it's funny. It's like he still had a manly aspect to him, though.
He does. Like he's got that hippie meets manly thing going that works well enough to where we're just not like, oh God, this is such a soy boy.
This is the birth of the dude. The dude was horny.
There's a lot of people who say that their headcanon where the dude came from is this is the dude.
This is the dude. I've said it.
He's seen so much shit in his life.
It's like I got that rug on this island from natives.
It was it's a rug made of Kong.
By the way, did I see Ed Lauder as the guy that was on the dinghy with Bridges?
Yes,
because that looked like Ed Lauder.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of great actors in this that are just spattered throughout. And again, that goes with the whole, disaster film idea. Even though this movie's a little more concentrated on a specific group of characters, unlike most disaster films. But yeah, it does have that feel of it, where you get a lot of great character actors and well-known actors
Now, correct me
spattered
if I'm
throughout.
wrong. Was this I remember this being a TV movie. Did this come out in the theaters?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, this is a huge big thing. But that's the thing is,
Yeah, it's a
when
2
they
hour
put it
and
on
12-minute
TV,
movie.
yeah.
I saw this freaking thing in movie theaters. I was really little,
Me too.
but I saw it.
I saw it twice in the movie theater.
Because
I was like
it's
4 or 5.
again,
I
I
was
I
big.
remember it. I just remember it from television, and it was kind of the days of same thing with what is it, Superman and Aliens. It's like, yeah, you would get and Dune for that matter. You would get different cuts on television. Because I remember telling my parents about, like, oh, this scene where this, and they'd be like, what? That you're making that up, because they wouldn't watch the television movies like I would. So, but was Kong Return? Did that come out in the theater as well?
Yep. King Kong Lives, yeah.
Yes,
but
it did.
flopped. But yeah, no,
I
that's
mean-
kind of where we started this whole thing and why we chose the TV version, because at that time, yeah, that was kind of the big deal, is where they would add all these extra scenes, and 2 nights the movie showed over, and yeah, it was a big event.
Oh, that's something I have trouble explaining to my kids. Was like, again, when they would show these movies on TV, it would be an event. I remember, was it 2001: A Space Odyssey? They were doing this simulcast where they broadcast the audio over the radio, so you could set
Have
up
it
a
in
radio,
stereo.
yeah, like fake stereo, until the ads came on, and you had the television ads and the radio ads like blaring at the same time, and they were different ads. But yeah, it's stuff like, I mean, maybe that's why I thought this was a TV movie, because I only ever saw it on TV when I was a kid, and it
It
seemed like a big event.
it did $90 million at the time, so not horrible, not great.
Martin, can you take it back a couple of frames?
I don't know about worldwide though. I think that's just
Oh,
the
I'll
US.
try. Because it's
Just a
What was
couple
the budget
frames.
on this movie? Because 90 million,
24 million. It was the most
So-
expensive movie ever made when it was made, actually. That's why we all kind of laughed when you said, was this in the theaters? Like, yeah, this was the most expensive movie made at that time. Yeah.
The guy that's standing there with the rifle, that is the same guy that played the mute on Superman, the motion picture.
yes.
Yep.
With
It's
General
Jack,
Zod.
what's his name? Yep.
Halloran, is that it? Or
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Yep.
Halloran?
I love that. I love the bit with the wall. It's like,
Hmm.
this wall is an ancient ruin, Jack. Yeah, why don't you tell that to the people who are playing those drums?
Ancient wooden ruins.
These glorious matte paintings, though. I mean, this really.
Oh, they're beautiful.
Yeah, that's what we were saying. Read by Nature. We were saying it's a prequel to The Big Lebowski.
Yeah,
There he was. Jack Halloran is in that shot, and there you can really tell it's the same actor.
Ray, you know what is funny? I got that soundtrack, and some dirty bastard took the poster off it. Like when I bought it in like a lot of records, and I'm like, oh, I hope it has a poster. I hope it has. No, of course it doesn't, because that makes it worth like 10 times as much.
And that
Yeah.
was Bob McCall that did that painting, wasn't it?
I believe so. Well, see, that's the thing we were talking earlier about, because this was the first time I remember, or at least I wasn't alive when it was, but I remember going back and looking in the history of it all. You guys that are a little older have to remind me, like the first shots and things you guys got to see of it were those posters, because he did like a series of like 3 or 4 posters that ended up being used at was it not Burger King but Burger Chef or whatever, and they had glasses, they had toys. Everybody, like I remember everybody had that poster. You could get the iron-ons. Like I even still had the poster as a kid. Like they were still giving that shit away. It was like
that's the best part of movies like this, though, is they really knew how to hype it with different artwork and the painted posters, and again the same thing, like you go to McDonald's and get the collectible glasses, or the art. I mean, don't get me wrong, I am a huge user of digital, and I'm using a lot of AI right now for the current project I'm working on, but still when I see those painted posters or the matte paintings, and even when you can tell it's a matte painting, you're still like, it's such a beautiful matte painting. It's like I definitely wish that we could bring some of that artistry and some of that hype back into things. But I think it's kind of the internet. Like now that everything's just thrown onto the internet, there's not as much need for the cool
and
posters.
people that have Photoshop think they're a poster artist. But what I will point out though is it was John Conrad Berkeley that did all the Kong posters. And you'll notice there's always one thing that's exactly the same is his face. There it is.
Yep. Oh, I love those bastards. They're amazing.
Every single poster he painted had the exact same upper chest and facial expression for Kong.
Well, and that's where they still weren't sure if he was going to be more humanoid. If you look at the face too, that's the other thing.
Yeah. Very humanoid brow line. His nose is almost human.
And then share the one that I got in the background, which is obviously from the same artist, same face and everything like you're saying here. But there's actually significance to this one because these came out fairly early on, and that's why I brought it up. If you can share the one I got here in the background.
Can you download that?
Yes.
Okay, so this poster here is the main poster, right?
Yeah, this is the same.
This poster, when he did it, he wanted to have him like on top of a building, so he chose the two towers because they were so close together and had him standing. In the script, it was still the Empire State Building. Dino saw this and said, "Change it to the Twin Towers." At the end, because he saw
That
this
is
poster
so
and he
cool.
loved
So the
it so
poster
much.
had an impact on
Yes,
the movie.
that's what I was saying.
By the
Is like
way-
because these things came out early enough on to build hype out. That's what I was saying. A lot of people didn't even know what Kong was going to look like
Put it
until
back
you
up.
started seeing all the trailers. Oops, I took it down. Sorry.
Oh,
I want that mask.
Martin.
bring it up again. Bring it up again.
Yeah.
Because I was going to point out that in his hand, that is basically a mocked up B-17 that he's crushing. It's not a helicopter or a fighter. Now that
Oh, is that what that is? That's what it is?
Oh, it's completely out of scale too. That's the other
I
thing.
thought
It's
it-
like it's so out of scale. It's not even funny.
I pondered this since 1976. I want to thank you for putting to an end 48 years of absolute bewilderment. I thought it was a space shuttle. Like that was like their idea of what the shuttle would be.
Oh,
doing,
no.
flying
You
around
can
with
tell
like
by
a
the
machine
pilot
gun on
area
top.
and the nose.
Let
that's
me
a
show
B-17.
an even bigger one. Yeah,
There
here,
we go.
more detail.
Look, there's like a gun on top of that thing and everything. Or is that the landing gear?
I think it's a fake airplane that he made up in his
Yeah.
head, but clearly
Just
it's
like a
inspired by the
bomber.
B-17. Yeah.
But like
I thought it
it
was a
doesn't. It
bomb
is
the
not
city,
even
that'll get
nearly
rid
to
of the monkey.
scale because, like, if you look at her compared to the buildings and him compared to the building, like she would be.
She's as big as the fighter.
Yeah. This is so out of scale. It's not even funny. But I love this friggin' poster. I don't give a
Well, it
crap.
has so much energy from the way he did the fur. Look at that.
It's just amazing piece of artwork that I don't know. Like I said, I remember everybody having it as a poster as a kid. I remember even getting a jolt out of it every time I seen it at the video store, even though, seen the movie a dozen times, but it didn't matter. It was just one of those iconic pieces of artwork that you just miss nowadays. And this is why I gripe that you, Gary, don't get enough. Like they should be paying attention to you when they redo a lot of these special edition Blu-rays and stuff to do some unique poster work, especially for some later movies like the 90s and 2000s that need it. Right.
Well, Gary's
Wow.
already got my
I know
word.
that
He's
John
doing a
May-
poster for my next movie.
Don May was very interested in using me on more Blu-ray covers, but nothing ever came of it.
That's too bad. Well, a lot of the budget isn't in that either. And Shout Factory is like one of the only ones who does, and they're garbage.
Yeah. Well, just so you guys know, that's Synapse Films is who Don May runs and owns.
Well, Gary, I already gave you my word that my next movie, I'm going to have you do a poster for it. I want like 4 or 5 posters.
Very Drew Struzanetsky.
Yes. Struzanestic. That is my new favorite word.
Yeah, I miss those days, those classic posters. I don't care how inaccurate they are. They're just so beautiful, right? They're art you want to hang on your wall. I can't think of a movie in the last 20 years where there's any of that art I'd like to hang on my wall.
Well, the same artist that did a really cool Star Wars poster.
I'm
I don't know
not
if you've ever
surprised.
seen it.
I'm sure I've seen it. I'm just not sure which one it is.
Yeah, there's a really great poster artist as well that I used for the Quantum Terror. His name's Oscar Ankerud. If you like that kind of art, he's on Instagram. I recommend you check him out because the guy's just a phenomenal painter, and he'll just do fan posters for no reason and post them. And I hired him, and I did one myself that was more like the. It's interesting because a lot of people like the Mondo style, so I did a Mondo style one. And if I get more money, I'll even hire Gary to do a Quantum Terror one, because I think it's just so much of the, like, fans just love that stuff. And like you said, Tom, you want stuff to hang on the wall. So when your guests come over and they see it, it's like, it's not just pride of the artwork. It's also kind of like a signal, like this is what I'm into. This is what I enjoy. And, you know, when other people come over and see stuff like that, they're like, oh, I love that. Yeah, I love that movie. And then you have a conversation about that movie. And then you go watch that movie again. They go watch that movie again.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one.
That's Berkeley Conrad's Star Wars poster.
And yeah, Chris, no, I totally agree with you, Chris. Not only that, it's just, to me, it's like modern art, man. It's like, it doesn't get enough respect. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
There's so many. Like, I have like the Indiana Jones poster, the Amsel one hanging on my wall. I've got, you know, the original Jaws poster, stuff like that. Like, that is amazing. And then even like, look at something like the original Scarface poster. It's like a pop art poster, but it's still amazing, right? Like, it's just, I miss that. I hate the floating heads shit. I'm sick and tired of it. I'm done with it.
You know, that's the sad thing as well, Tom, is I'll tell you this right now, that the poster I did, hold on, I'll grab it. I because you should see it.
Anyone else want to say the most confusing poster we saw this week is absolutely Madam Web? What the hell is going on?
I haven't even
seen
it.
What's going on? Well, who is Madam Web?
Using AI in half of them.
So this one
with the eyeballs is really weird.
So this one here, I got him to do it painted, and he did a really good job. Sorry for the on my crappy camera, but the floating head thing for video on demand, that's like the number one thing they insist for your packaging that you do, because in their minds,
thumbnails, Chris. This is why.
Yeah.
And I'll explain it to you, Tom. This is the thing that everything is based off of thumbnails, because you want to have something that's going to get somebody's eye when it's a thumbnail.
Right. But look, this still gets my eye. This is like newer art for the UK edition of Highlander.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I mean, look at that. I don't know who did it, but it looks gorgeous. Sorry, I'm trying to focus. There we go.
It's in focus.
There you go.
That really throws back to the Empire Strikes Back artwork with the classic.
Yeah, a little bit. Now that you say that, I see it. Yeah,
it's gorgeous artwork, dude.
But again, there's a wonderful photo I posted to my Instagram. It's two little boys in front of a movie theater. Like, one's got his arm over the other.
Oh, I saw that in Forbidden Planet.
Yeah, and they're looking at the poster Forbidden Planet. And it's just it's like that photo is a work.
Is that a period photo?
Yeah, it's a period photo.
I love it.
It's just like those two kids are looking at that poster, just like their imagination is buzzing.
Yeah, they were dreaming. And I'm so glad that you tell me that's a period, because I was wondering when I'm looking at going, oh God, I hope that's a period piece, because that says so much if it is.
Oh yeah, it's just like the magic of that time, or just like
that was the future nerd right there.
I remember, man, just seeing that poster for Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade that Struzan did in the marquees, you know, like a month or so before the movie came out, and I was just like, you know, I had that same feeling that you see in that photo. It's just, it's just part of the magic of it. I feel like I don't know if I'm going to sound old. Kids today have anything that evokes that kind of excitement in them, that kind of magical excitement that, you know, they're anticipating and looking forward to something. You know, now it's all said. I use Photoshop and AI all the time, but I still want to see that hand painted art, that, you know, that magic that is the storytelling that the artist directly infuses into that work. And you know, seeing the Kong posters and stuff, like, I kind of feel like a little bit of, like, you know, it takes me back a little bit, you know, just a little bit. I feel, like back here, that era, as if I'm still there a little bit. And it sounds weird, but I think you guys know what I mean.
I was trying to find that photo, Chris, and I can't find it. The one
On
you
my
posted.
Instagram, let me.
Well, it showed up on Facebook, and I liked it, but I can't seem to find it now.
Let me
Can you
message
share it with me?
Yeah, I'll message it. You want it through Twitter or through Facebook?
Just send it through Facebook.
Okay.
Because I want to show folks that it's just a great photograph.
While you're doing that, since we're in, Dwan's big scene here, Jessica Lange's big scene more so, I feel so sorry for her, what she had to go through at this time. I don't know if you guys know the story of this, but
no,
she got so beaten up by the critics because she was a model. This was her first acting gig. You wouldn't know it. I think she does just fine.
Yeah.
But she got so depressed because basically Roger Ebert was one of the only people that gave her a good review. And so she went and took a hiatus for 3 years and didn't act and went to acting school. Because she was so just beaten down by all the critics calling her such a horrible actress in this movie.
I didn't notice, but I wasn't looking for the acting.
I thought she
Might
did
have
just
paid off
fine.
in
Yeah.
career-
It did. She
Yeah,
did
she
a
Might have
fine.
paid off in career longevity, though. I mean, she's still out there doing
I mean, in hindsight, you look back on it, the biggest problem with the movie is she just doesn't get much to do other than just hang around with Kong, right? I mean, they actually give her a little bit more backstory than they kind of give Fay Ray in the original film. At least you know that she
there's
was.
no question. No
And that's
question
so
about it.
many, it's like the great actors, when you don't give them anything to do, they figure out something. But, there are a lot of good actors that suffer just from that problem.
Well, her
but I got to say,
performance as Joan Crawford in The Feud, wow, dude.
I got
Wow.
to credit. I didn't know that story, Tom, but I got to say, what a great way to react to bad criticism, though. Even if you're feeling beaten down by it, you're just like, okay,
do better.
I'm gonna go figure out how to, like, she didn't give up on it. She didn't go like, oh, I suck.
Well, Will Smith did the same thing,
but now we can't get rid of him.
Yeah. Well, that was because he kept getting yelled at because he had not taken any acting classes before Fresh Prince, and he kept mouthing everybody else's lines. If you watch those first few episodes of Fresh Prince, you catch him all the time mimicking, like like he'll say his line, then like Uncle Phil will have a line. He's literally saying whatever Uncle Phil's saying to himself. You can see his lips moving, and then he'll say his line.
Oh.
So he realized that, and he went and took some acting classes. Yeah,
I've actually seen that, Tom.
Well, thank you for
Gone back
clearing
and
that
looked
up.
at
All
it.
this time, I thought Fresh Prince is the real Sith, pulling the strings behind the scene.
No, that's funny. Now you watch the first like dozen or so episodes or half dozen episodes of Fresh Prince, you notice it quite a bit.
That's funny. Yeah. But
you don't when you're normally watching it because you're just watching the person who's talking, right? But if you just sit there and focus on Will Smith, you'll notice he's sitting there like, you'll be like, but damn, Uncle Phil. And then Phil will be talking to him just like, but that's not fair.
Nodding right along with him. Yeah. I've
That's
seen
funny.
What? It's like,
just to confirm what Tom's saying. I've seen the episodes and seen him do it. By the way, I need to show this real quick. This is the other Star Wars poster that Berkeley did.
well, that's the famous one. Yeah.
Yeah, that one's beautiful.
That was the one that was on the novel.
Yep. That's the John Conrad Berkeley painting. And it's just gorgeous.
I just want to say credit to Will Smith, though, for at least learning everyone else's lines, because that actually is something that helps other actors. But, yeah.
Well, yeah, he was worried about effing up. That's why.
Well, he was worried
he was
about
over
missing his
prepared,
cues.
basically. Yeah.
He was worried about missing his cues. So he figured if he knew everybody's lines, he would know when he needed to talk.
When I work
Is
with
that
actors,
why he mouths what his wife says?
I'm just Teague.
I didn't mean to insult great actress Jada Pinkett Smith. I loved her in Gotham as Fish Mooney.
She was okay.
Did you want to show that photo, the Forbidden Planet one?
I'd love to see that. I haven't seen it.
Listen. Well,
it's your cue, Gary. It's your cue.
He's muted.
You're muted.
Yeah, sorry, I was having to download it. I wasn't aware you'd sent it yet.
Oh
I didn't
yeah,
get a notification. So let me load this in now. It's a beautiful photo. Where did you find it?
I don't remember. It's one of those things that came up on my memory, so I re-downloaded it and reshared it again. Uh, but it was, for the same reason, just like I came across it and I was just like, man, this is that right there.
Take Tim's comment down, Martin.
Yeah, I'm on it.
There you go. I mean, that looks like.
Oh wow.
What's his name that played Dennis the Menace? Mitchell. What's the kid's name? Jay North. Jay North.
North, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's from one of those shows or something like that. But I have this.
I love those posters, by the way. They're almost like the subway posters. They're wider than.
Oh, that feels pretty legit. I mean, maybe it's somewhat staged, but
this. So, like, I mean, that
picture.
poster embodies kind of what I'm trying to capture with Escape from Planet Omega 12. And I actually have this, let's see if I can do this. On the side of my computer, I've got Robbie the robot carrying her through there. Also, for anyone who hasn't seen Forbidden Planet, I know everyone here has, but, maybe someone watching the video.
Anima has not watched it yet, and I'm going to show it to her.
Oh, my goodness. It's so...
And I have a 14-inch tall Robbie the robot, fully functioning one.
Oh, like Data's is fully functioning?
Yeah.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah, fully functioning. Yeah.
Meet my fully functioning Robert.
Let's get a weenus.
Robot.
Let's get a weenus.
It's this is.
Is this the log scene? Yeah, this is the log.
That's
scene.
when he falls. Yeah, he falls. No, he falls into the footprint. This is at night at the encampment or whatever you want to call it, the ancient artifact village.
At least Will Smith didn't slap them.
Right?
Gotham wasn't that bad. I liked it.
I couldn't pass the first episode. I said, nope.
I heard that the first episode and the last episode were terrible and everything else in between was great, but I never saw it, so I can't comment.
I wouldn't say great, but everything else in between was bad.
All right, here you go. This is for you, Tim.
By what name are you known?
There are some who call me Tim.
There we go. And by the way, I added this yesterday, Tom, because anytime we use the word shenanigans, I have to play this video.
But our shenanigans are cheeky and fun.
Yeah, I mean, his shenanigans are cruel and tragic. Which makes them not shenanigans at all, really.
Evil shenanigans.
I swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.
Hey, Farva, what's the name of that restaurant you like with all the goofy shit on the walls and the mozzarella sticks?
You mean shenanigans?
No.
You're talking about shenanigans, right?
Put those away.
I love that movie. So here we go. This is where we get to see Kong with his Herbie expression for the first time. Oh, that's cool, Anthony. I was 12 when it came out. So you're older than me.
I was 3
when did it come out?
When it came out.
76? Oh, there it is on the ticker tape. Yeah, that's the year I was born.
I time traveled back and saw this as a 10-year-old.
Yeah, just
despite being young, I enjoyed this role.
Well, it's movies like this that made me take an interest in girls at a very early age.
Yeah,
man.
And let's, and again, just being a bit nostalgic, back when Hollywood wasn't afraid to make women beautiful on on screen.
I suppose now's as good any time to bring up a very famous voice actor who did a lot of Kong's grunts and groans and roars.
Who was that?
Peter Collins.
Wow. Yeah. Optimus Prime himself.
How come that doesn't surprise me?
So he has.
Now here's a composite. This is a 3-part composite. You have the composite of the background, the composite of her in the giant hand, and the composite of Rick Baker.
It could be a rear projection too, but yeah.
It's green screen. That's all, or blue screen. That's all they
You
did
can
in this
usually tell if you can see the thing around her, but yeah, sometimes it would be composite, sometimes it would be.
This film is just chock full of blue screen, and it annoys me because it would have looked so much better if they had gone rear screen or front screen projection.
It's so funny. Listen, again, like my favorite movie, Aliens, has some brilliant rear projection work, and I hear people complain like, "Oh, it looks fake now." I'm like, still looks great to me. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, those matte lines, it's always unfortunate, and that's just a result of they essentially have to do 5 different passes of exposure.
It's why they eventually went to green screen, because green screen works better with chroma key. But I got to tell you, man, if they had done rear screen or front screen, either one would have worked so much better.
Yeah, it's again, with the blue screen, it's blue screen for film, it's green screen for digital, because digital handles green screen better. Those matte lines are essentially in the 5 passes, like the exposures will just slip a little bit and make that black matte line. You can even see a matte line in the Abyss for the first digital with the water weenie. They still did a optical composite on that digital element. And yeah, the problem, the big challenge with rear screen or front screen projection is just getting the exposure right, though. Stanley.
Well, yeah, because the projector has to be in sync with the camera.
Well, it has to be in sync with the camera, and also the brightness levels are very hard to get right, because when you film a projection, it automatically is less saturated.
Now, a great example that came from the same period is Superman the Motion Picture, because they used that was front screen projection, as I recall.
Yeah, and they did a lot of clever tricks with that one.
They even had different screen colors, and they even had a different color costume for Christopher Reeve for when he did blue screen
because it
shots.
was not blue. It wasn't true blue. It was almost green.
And then in the process of changing it, then yeah, it would be the more natural color.
Yeah, and that's really, directors, again, another problem with modern Hollywood is that there are no directors that know how to think ahead like that anymore. These guys were really on it. I mean, Kubrick was the master of that. The 2001: A Space Odyssey.
That was front screen projection, and
yeah,
it was the best I've ever seen.
And for years, I thought they were really like filming out in the Sahara. Like, I could not tell the difference. There's a giant.
Look at that matte line. Look at that matte line right there.
Yeah,
that's horrible.
Because you got
otherwise it's not bad.
Water element. You have her in the giant hand, and then the composite of Kong and the composite of the background.
There is, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. There's been stuff on it, but if you ever watch movies like Mary Poppins or Bedknobs and Broomsticks, they actually had a camera. It had a special, this is amazing. It had a special crystal in it that could on set separate the background from the actors. And it wasn't a blue screen, or it was like a beige screen. And something about this crystal, and like it was proprietary to Disney, and I believe it's like in some like vault now, but this crystal was like so precise that no one was ever able to replicate it. Otherwise you would have seen more people. I think they loaned it out. I think they loaned it out to like Logan's Run or something like that. But for the most part, a lot of people wanted to kind of recreate that crystal because you never had the problem with these matte lines.
That's interesting. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, there's that Corridor Crew, the visual effects artists. They did something on there. It is a kyber crystal. Yeah.
I6.
And yes, hello 6.
This is the infamous blow dryer scene. Blowing on her. Even when I was 12
she
years
hates
old,
it. Can't you tell?
Yeah, I turned to
and
my
now,
dad.
thanks to Chris, we know it smells like nanners.
Well,
This is about
when I
some
was
of
a
the pain
kid,
you talked about are going through, right, Tom?
I remember telling my dad in the theater, going, I bet that smelled awful
I think shooting the film, she didn't have much of a problem. I think the one time she almost got crushed by the Kong hand and some elements like that. But I mean, as far as the experience, I don't think she's ever said anything bad. It was the aftermath. It was just the way the critics just dug into her.
So saying that I have is making a movie is easy. It's the audience that has to sit through it. Probably doesn't apply as much here, though. Again,
Well,
so many people enjoyed this movie.
What's sad is we've got so many worse actresses now, right? That people give passes to, and it's like, are you kidding me?
It's amazing sometimes.
Not even give them passes; they actually give them good reviews when they're terrible.
Guys, I hate to interrupt you, but we should run the
Oh, it's
Vindicated.
time. It's halfway. Yeah. Let's go.
Meet the Seattle Vigilante. Like so many comic heroes, this warrior hides his identity. But his identity isn't the only secret he has to keep. After grievous wounds received during combat, Tier 1 operator John Russell begins to recover and comes to terms with his new reality of being an amputee. And as he learns how to use his new prosthetic limb, he finds himself caught up in the bureaucratic red tape that too many wounded veterans experience, the exhausting medboard process. Out of sheer frustration, John takes it out on the criminal scum of the city. But when reality kicks in, John realizes he started something that's having an impact on the greater world around him, and thus has to reevaluate his motives. And moreover, just how far is John willing to go to finish this war he's declared against the criminals in Seattle? And will he even survive? From the creator of IDW's award-winning graphic novel Code Word Geronimo comes a new story about a different kind of warrior, Vindicated Inc., the first of its kind disabled veteran action hero comic. The Vindicated Inc. graphic novel crowdfunding campaign on fundmycomic.com is provided in the description of this video. We hope you become a contributor. Please share this link. Thank you.
And of course, the campaign is still going. It'll be going till April 21st. So when the tax refunds come, you'll be able to join in, and hopefully you will. By the way, there was a question was asked Tom the other day of me, and I said I don't know the answer. How many packs of cigarettes did you smoke before doing that narration?
12.
12 packs. Somebody actually asked me that. They're like, man, Tom's voice sounds awesome. How many packs of cigarettes do you have to smoke to sound that cool?
I think you should add a little thing to it about the tax return. When the tax returns come in and then cut to Starship Troopers, you know what to do, soldier.
You know what to do, soldier. That's right. There's Renee, by the way.
Oh my God.
That is the guy's. Yeah. I've always had trouble pronouncing auberginois, but
I love this.
He's laughing his laugh out.
He used to be governor on the TV series Benson. That was where he got his break.
That's right.
You guys remember that?
Yep.
That's right.
I love this sets. You know, the people complain about artificial looking sets. I love them. I absolutely love seeing there's something about that artifice that just makes it feel like another world.
I'll tell you something. The thing I've always liked about Dino De Laurentiis is he is a big spectacle movie maker. He harkens back to Cecil B. DeMille, loves building big shit, loves building big sets. And he did. Now, yes, he do use matte paintings, but that is a set right there. That's the entire set.
Were they using some sort of projection for that, or were those backgrounds painted?
With the clouds, I think they're painted. Because they don't look like
so
projection.
Cool. Look at how cool that looks, though. That's great.
Because I'll tell you, projection does have a specific look. Great example. Watch that scene with the tumbling drop ship and aliens in the background when they're trying to get away from it. That's I'm not sure if that's front or rear screen, but you can still tell it's projected.
Yeah, they
and
did
for
a
those
lot.
of you who don't know what I'm talking about, when they have to be in sync, the projector has to be in exact sync with the camera that's shooting, because if they're shooting at 24 frames per second in movie film back then, and so every time that the lens is open, the
shutter's open. Yeah,
the shutter's open, and they have to project
has to match. Yeah,
and if it doesn't match, you get that stutter. like this right now. See my hand? You'll get that.
The best example I think that you can relate to anyone that's used a cell phone that's tried to film something with flashing lights, or if they're like trying to record a lightning storm,
effect,
and when you get that quick flash, it looks like the
Your
flash only
fan.
appears a half of the picture, and then maybe it jumps down to the other half within a split second. And essentially that's what's happening. The 24 frames have to run at the exact same speed as the camera, so that with 2001 A Space Odyssey, I think for the Sahara scenes, I would imagine, and I don't know, but I would imagine that they wouldn't have to worry about that though, because they were really just putting up still images for the backgrounds.
Those are still images, and the lighting is the part that blows my mind. It's the way he lit the foreground to match the background photo.
Yeah,
because a lot of people don't know this about Kubrick. Is he is a still life photographer. Before he was a filmmaker, he would do still photography, so he knew all kinds of tricks.
And a good cinematographer is gonna be able to help you with that. There's scenes from Gandhi, I believe. I think like when the horses are coming in trampling the protesters, they shot it in a certain order. They're wide shots during the day, and they knew as they were losing light, they started to light the actors in close up until by the end of the shoot, there were close-ups of the actors that looked like they were at the same time of day, and they had actually they were still shooting after sundown, but the cinematographer and the lighters were so good that they were able to trick the camera into making you think that it was still the same time of day for those close-ups. So yeah, you can do amazing stuff with light. And again, this is all this craftsmanship that's just been lost because there's no mentors anymore. It's just like the new batch comes in and they believe they're entitled to be there.
Well, they had training programs for these young filmmakers at the studios. Spielberg was into that. He was in the training program.
Oh yeah, he was a little kid like doing that. He grew up in Hollywood. He went to the schools there. I know originally he's from Arizona, but he spent time in Hollywood growing up there. And even people like James Cameron, who I got to get my friend Alec Gillis on here someday, because he's the one that got James Cameron his start at Corman. Him and Corman got hired together.
Corman was the best film college you could go to.
Yeah, and when you watch again, different subject, but Battle Beyond the Stars and Galaxy of Terror, you can see that was Cameron's testing ground for the technology he used on Terminator and Aliens. And it's like, but yeah, they were put through these trials by fire. They weren't there for any entitlement. They had to.
And that looks like the same beach, by the way, that was used in Planet of the Apes.
Probably
in the background.
Yeah.
But
now that you mention
Roger
it,
Corman story, Roger was originally going to direct Major Dundee, and he made a mistake with the studio. They kept sending him stuff that he said he didn't need, and he was trying to save money. He was good on doing budgets. He was a budget guy, and they freaked out over him doing that and fired him, and brought in Sam Peckinpah.
Spend that money.
That's the way they think. If we're throwing money at something, it's going to be good. Sam Peckinpah.
Yeah. Well, this, again, Roger Corman was very good at working on a budget, but his movies still were budget movies. They looked, good for their budgets.
Cheap, but they're still good.
Yeah. You want Sam Peckinpah if you want someone to spend the money. That's a good one to go with. They definitely spent the money here.
And I'm close friends with Katie Haber, who worked with Sam Peckinpah on many of his films from the 70s. And, we've gone ad nauseum into that. Even though, he did spend the money, every single penny was on screen. It was no wasted money. Everything was used. So I will commend him on that.
Yeah. Well, studios, they got to write stuff off as well.
This scene is crazy, dude.
This is the kind of thing when it's Rick Baker in the suit, just looking at it now, I see ways they could have shot it back then that would have been better. It seems to me like they didn't they didn't use high frame rates or frames per second, because I think
No,
if
they
they
stuck to 24.
yeah, when you shoot something that you want to look big, and
You speed up the film, and so it walks slower with a slower gait.
Oh, I'm sure they sped it up a little bit in this.
Yeah,
For the
just
Kong
not enough.
bits.
The Kong
I
bits
mean,
don't look. He doesn't look gigantic because he's moving normal speed.
well, it's the camera angles too, and the lens choices and all that stuff, and probably some of it was limited by the fact that they had to use certain lenses to work with the blue screen and whatever else. But and also, they're trying to make him look big, but they're also trying to do these cinematic wide shots where it's her in the foreground and him looming above her. If you want somebody in the foreground like that and you use wide lenses, it's going to give you a much deeper depth of field, which makes more sense when you've got her, being held in the palm of his hand. But you really want to shoot, you do want to shoot wide more with like miniatures and stuff. So, trying to make those.
You don't get the blurring effect because that's the problem.
Yeah. And but they were kind of up against something here where they've also got they're trying to achieve.
We need to do a show sometime, Chris, to explain depth of field and why miniatures have to be shot a specific way. People snooze maybe, but if we have a slideshow to go with it to explain things, I think they'd enjoy it.
Well, I love this stuff. I just read, like, listening to myself talk, I realized I was kind of working it out in my mind as I was talking, which is what I do in meetings about stuff like this. And then I realized, like, oh, but half the time I say things that are wrong and I have to backtrack in the middle of those meetings too. So
I hear you do that on dates too.
Don't tell my wife.
Maybe it was with your wife. I don't know.
Well, she just tunes me out, That's I have to be careful because, it's like in the evening when we sit down and just watch TV with a glass of wine or something like that, and we're finished watching whatever it is we decided to watch, I'll flip to YouTube and start watching.
This is the snake scene, isn't it? Hold on. This is the snake scene? Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah, the big giant boa.
Yeah.
Now, I kind of like this because my problem with many of the productions of Kong is he had too many things he had to fight. And it really should have been limited to maybe a couple of things to show him protecting her.
Well, I believe a lot of this is extended in the TV cut, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, he does the classic scene because he actually, and I remember.
But I think it's cut down in the theatrical versions. I mean,
I lost my shit, dude. And they had just finally perfected blood on screen. Because before this, blood was looking orange in film, like John Wayne movies, shit like that. You'd see it all the way up into the 70s, but by 76, they had gotten blood to look right, and it didn't look like paint; it looked like blood. And a lot of the blood in this looks really good. It's one of the few things I'll really step up and say about this film is I really love their blood mixture for the gore.
Tom, what do you think about overall the TV cut? Do you think is it cool to you because you get to see some extra stuff that is just awesome to see, or do you think it's a superior cut?
Growing up, like I said, that's the version that I was most used to until a little later in life. I'm doing my own fan edit of sorts of the better scan of the film, of the theatrical cut, mixing it in with the added bits of the TV version. And as I'm going along, there's some ancillary stuff that doesn't really need to be there. But no, I honestly, I'm glad they finally made it available, even if it's not, perfect. It's a decent version, much better than a lot of other TV cuts.
It has the fade outs for the commercial breaks.
It does have some of those kind of things, and it's from a different print than the actual film print. But
because I showed
it's still in that good of quality after all these years is saying a lot. But yeah,
I showed the last act of this film to Anima yesterday, and she thoroughly enjoyed it. But I kept pointing out the fade outs, And I'm like going, I wish they'd fix that. That bugs me. The fade outs.
And that's another thing I'm taking out in mine. I took like a minute out of the beginning already that was just a bunch of reused shots over and over again and didn't flow quite right in the widescreen.
Oh, you're doing your own fan edit?
Yeah. I don't know. I just, it'll take me a while to do, but the bigger problem is going to be fixing the sound, because that's another reason why I want to do it too.
Do you have Topaz, Tom, to restore footage?
Yeah,
Topaz I've never heard of that.
AI software for filmmakers to not just restore, but to up quality your video or film.
Topaz is something we use it at my work because we work with different radio shows for Apple, and celebrities. Their people will send us downgraded cell phone photos, JPEGs and stuff, and we'll use Topaz to upres it. And there's an art to getting it right, because sometimes you can give things that plastic.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan usually of that. Yeah, but
check out. I just watched on Chris Gore's recommendation. I didn't know this existed. I'm a big fan of David Lynch's Dune, even though I was always disappointed in how the second half was
I have
handled.
Topaz, by the way, Chris. See?
I have seen this. I know what you're talking about. The 4K up convert.
Yeah. So that was well, first of all, I freaking love the Spice Diver edit now, and thanks to Chris Gore for pointing that out, because it has made the movie exciting for me again. But yeah, the upres of that, they use Topaz for that. It's really good at restoring footage, and we actually have Peter Jackson to thank, because I believe it was his Weta AI work that they used to restore the Beatles Let It Be stuff, the Get Back sessions, and this works even better than that. But again, it takes a little handling. I'm currently trying to upres some stuff at the moment using an open source one, and I can't get it to work properly. So that's why my eyes have been darting around while I've been talking. But yeah, it's great. And then Adobe.
You do the same thing when you're watching adult entertainment.
Oh my.
Oh my.
But also Adobe has a free what is it called? Adobe Podcast. Look up Adobe Podcast.
Yeah, I've got it.
You've got Adobe Podcast. Okay. Because I love this idea of restoring stuff. I even considered doing my own, not that I have time to, but I would love to one day do my own fan edit of Alien 3, and because I hate that movie, but I feel like I could save it. I love that. The fans can really kind of see where things can be tightened up. And is this your first fan edit? Have you ever done any others? You still there?
Sorry.
Oh,
what was up?
No, I was just saying, is this your first fan edit, or have you done others before?
Not my first, but I mean, I've done, but not. This will be the scale. And like I said, the bigger. I mean, I thought the video was going to be easier than it was, but the audio is also going to be a challenge, because that's one of the other reasons I wanted.
I am doing my first fan edit, Tom. Thanks to Andre. Andre got me a copy of Blade Runner that had all.
That had all the 4 different ones. Yeah.
So I'm able to go in there and fix, because I want to put the narration into the director's cut, but I want to fix that stumpy line when he interrupts the death scene of Roy Batty. I want to either take that out or bump it up a couple of beats, because it intrudes on the scene.
Well, if I could actually figure out how to rip things in 4K, that's the thing I keep running into, because otherwise I would have ripped King Kong in 4K. I have the 4K version of this. But I just did the Blu-ray version. That's the 4K scan down.
I hear you can go to YouTube and ask questions like that.
Well, I've gotten answers, but I don't. Every time I get an answer, I hit a dead end. But
is there any place we can watch your other fan edits, or is this like the first one that you're gonna?
This will probably be the first one if I ever put it out. Yeah.
How do you put it out without getting copyright strike? Because I was surprised to see that the Spice Diver.
I'll just give it to friends and stuff like that. Basically, yeah. I mean, they'll just if I put it on YouTube, they
uses that one that's really cool. You can actually watch movies with your viewers, but not through YouTube. You give them a separate link so they can watch the movie with you while you're on YouTube talking about it.
That's what doesn't that what Plex does? You can
I do
Plex
it.
can do- But what's Teague? What's the one you use?
It's called Cosme with a K.
And because he
I'll
did
throw
that
the
the
link
other
in the
day.
private chat.
Yeah, he did it the other day on one of his shows, and I sat on it going, "This is really cool."
Yeah, Victor, I was really impressed with it. I didn't know this existed, and I like now I want to do a download of the 4K Spice Diver cut of Dune and put it on a disc so I can have it. I'm sure there are people that do that already, but it's like Star Wars Despecialized Edition, like
The despecialized is great, but my favorite is Adiwan. Did the special edits of Star Wars and Empire. I've never seen his Return of the Jedi. I don't think he's finished it yet.
I'll have
he
to check that
fixed
out.
so much of everything that I loved and hated about the special editions, and it's really good.
That's great. I mean, I know there's like there were already like a dozen different cuts of the original Star Wars New Hope.
Well, the despecialized is, in my opinion, probably the best edit, but Adiwan actually went through the trouble of shooting special effects scenes himself to put into the film to fix scenes. And I'm like, I like that kind of commitment. We have another one coming out. Tom, I don't know if you know about this one, is the White Dragon cut of Blade Runner. And I've seen the first half of it. It's really good. It's all the scenes where CG, he adds the scenes in that they weren't able to shoot, and he puts them back in.
Well, Tom, I'm looking forward to your version, your cut of this, because it's been a long time since I've seen this movie. It's one of those childhood memory movies. So I feel like before I go and watch it again, I think I want to have your cut be.
Well, I don't want to get your hopes up too much. It's going to be fairly similar to this cut, pretty much.
Well, yeah, but still, just
like I'm not really going to go make any major changes to it. Like the only thing I've really cut out is just like stuff that is like excessive, or just to kind of make it flow better.
Well,
visually, but I'm just getting started, so yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to hold off and see what you do. No pressure or anything.
Yeah,
like I said, if I can ever figure out how to rip 4K, I've got other plans for stuff that would be probably much more interesting. But yeah,
I'll take a look into it and see if I can find a good explanation of how to do it.
I kind of know how to do it. It's just every player or burner I get, it has the wrong kind of setup for it. You have to get like a certain specific ones that you can actually crack them open through certain softwares. Yeah, it's just, but yeah, if anybody can figure it out in an easy way that can explain it to somebody who's not real good at techie stuff. Yeah,
because that's the problem I have with rendering is like certain programs, man, they kill your RAM. By the way, not used in this film, but that last shot reminded me. Some of my favorite cinematography is done with the split optics, where you have the diopter, triopters, and Brian De Palma is probably the greatest user of the split lens, where you have something in the foreground. In fact, Star Trek: The Motion Picture, the 4K version, oh my God, I couldn't believe how beautiful that looked when you'd have Kirk in the foreground and then the split diopter line, and then you'd see Uhura in the background doing what she's doing. God, I love the use of that.
That's actually one of the ones I want to do a special edit of, because I like the TV cut a little bit better than the director's cut.
Because it shows Kirk go outside the ship.
Well, there's a few things, yeah. And then there's that, and then there's like just a few minor things that they did in the director's cut that I don't like. But of course, all the special effects and some other things.
V'ger is the only thing I liked, is that they added all the additional V'ger.
Well, that, and they fixed Vulcan and some other things.
Well, that was fixed on the director's cut previously. Well,
that's what I mean, but they did a 4K version of it now.
Oh, right.
So I'd like to take that version, mix it with some of the stuff from the TV cut, because there's a few things they don't use in the director's cut that I like from the TV cut. And there's a few shots that they...
up. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
I was just saying that they took some like liberties with that I'm not too happy with too. For instance, there's the scene where they have the whole big group of people at Starfleet, and they're watching as V'ger kills that whole crew. In the director's cut, it's just like, shut it off. And it gets shut off right away. And it's just, Kirk comes off awfully cold. In the original cut, it's like, shut it off.
Yeah,
shut it
more
off.
like he's reacting.
Yeah,
to it.
it's like because he's just disgusted by, like it loses, like there's just little bits like that they change that it's like, no, you can't do that. That ruins the character.
That's always the problem I've had with the motion picture is just a lot of the timing of the edits. That if you think of any movie that really does not pay attention to the rule, arrive late, leave early, it's pretty much every shot in that movie. I always thought they could like come in a little later on a scene and leave a little sooner. You'd have things like meetings, like you'd have everyone showing up for the meeting and then you'd have everybody leaving for the meeting. It's like, wow.
Well, the visual effects is one of the best things they did on that. But the shot that I'm talking about from the TV version that I've always wanted to see fixed correctly, when Kirk is leaving the Enterprise, they screwed up and you can see the scaffolding and beams of the set. When he's leaving, it's not the Enterprise. It's like he's standing in the prop part where he's going to exit the ship. And the rest of it is movie set. And you can see the movie set. And it's just messy looking. And I've always wanted to see a proper cleanup of that shot. And that was in the TV version.
That last version you gave me had a scene I'd never seen before where Chekhov gets hurt and they come to help him. And Ilea's like, no, don't give him any medical help.
Well, that's in another
a
cut, too. I think that's the TV cut. They show it, yeah.
That I never recalled that. And I was like, what
she
the hell
uses
is she
her
doing?
abilities to diminish the pain. Not heal it, but diminish his pain.
Yeah, she has like empathetic powers of some sort. I would feel like
which is what
so.
translated later into Deanna Troi, because Deanna Troi is based on her and Riker is based on Deckard.
Yes, you could tell.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Kirk unit.
Yeah, Princess Kambata was, oh my God.
I like maybe we need a Kong versus Kirk.
What does Kong need with a starship?
What does New York need with a giant ape?
You're
Kong! Play center field and hit home runs, Tom.
You stepped on my son. You stepped on my son.
Now,
you
damn
dirty ape. Dirty ape.
When he does step on, what's his name? The guy that runs the whole thing. When he steps on him at the end, Charles Grodin. Wasn't there gore in the original cut?
No, actually, he didn't die in the original version. That happened in a reshot bit, actually, because the test audience loved to hate his character so much. I guess a bunch of people asked, why didn't you kill him or what happened to him? Because he just disappears after that scene. So they went back and cut a shot with Charles Grodin where he got stepped on. But no, there was no gore in it ever. No, that's always the way the scene always was. That's one thing they didn't let Kong do in this version adamantly was not eat people too. Because he did eat people in the original Kong.
Although he does throw that girl. I mean, what are the odds of
he throws that bitch with no fucks to give.
Wearing the same dress that she's wearing, an evening gown.
He's pissed at her. Like, yeah, he's like, fuck this shit. That's not the bitch.
He just throws her.
Going out dressed like that, what did she expect?
And this, the TV cut also has the famous car scene that was one of the early shots people saw in
where he throws it in the building.
Amazing Monsters magazine or whatever. They got cut out of the final film. But yeah, so a lot of people didn't even get to see that scene until this TV version a couple years after it came out. Yeah.
Yeah. He
Famous
picks up
Monsters,
that
you mean?
car and Famous Monsters.
Yeah, what did I say? I'm sorry. I meant Famous
Amazing
Monsters. Did I say amazing? I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, no worries. But I do love that shot of him throwing that car into the building and it explodes. That was awesome.
Yeah, it sucks that a lot of that got left out of the original cut.
And the thing that's so weird about Jessica Lange's character, Dwan, which I hate that name, Dwan, is she's kind of enamored with Kong in this.
Well, and this is the first time, you kind of see that. And that's one thing that carried over into Jackson's version that's not really in the original version is that, Anne could give a shit about Kong, really, in the original version. She just wants to get away from him. But yeah. In this one, you kind of have this sympathetic thing going on. And of course, you have Jeff Bridges' character who has a background in zoology. So he does understand Kong. And I kind of like that part of his character. I thought the bit with the Twin Towers thing was a little too spot on where he's like, I've seen this before. They should have just have him be like, he knew that as soon as he knew which direction Kong was headed, what he was doing, just because of the view, he should have been like, They didn't have to say it out loud. You're just seeing it is enough. But
I-
as far as
I-
the Dawn thing, she admits that her name is Dawn, but she changed it, right? Because that's what the type of shit chicks were doing back then. They're all hippy dippy
Yeah.
shit and high on coke.
There is a
and-
line about that.
I spelled Tracy with an I.
I'm Tracy with
she
an
was-
I. Yeah, that was the 80s. Yeah, everything was with an I.
By the way, Anima, who watched the third act with me last night, she says she was too loud, the woman on the train, so he tossed her away. Love that scene and how he munches on people and then throws them away because they're too chewy.
Well, that was the Kong Lives. He was like snapping people in half.
No. She's talking about the original, the 1933.
Yeah. No,
That's
King
the
Kong
chewing
Lives
scene.
came 10 years after this, and that thing is batshit crazy. I love it because of how batshit crazy it is.
And it also
That's
has
the one
Cliff
with the
Clavin in it.
Hamilton?
Let's not
And
forget
Sarah
that.
Connor.
Yeah, Sarah
Yeah.
Connor and Cliff
And Bill
Clavin.
Paxton, right?
And a
Bill
Lady
Booth.
Kong with tits.
Bill's not in that, is he?
That is one weird movie, man.
It is a weird, and it's a
Bill's not
direct
in that.
sequel to this movie. That's the weirder part about it. It's for those who don't know what we're talking about. There's a movie in 1986 came out exactly 10 years after this movie, produced by Dino De Laurentiis, same exact director. It may even have the same writer. I have to check that. But it's called King Kong Lives, and they bring him back to life with an artificial heart. But he needs a blood transplant. So they find out that there's a Lady Kong on the island or some other island. I can't remember which. It's been a while since I watched it.
In Borneo, I think.
Yeah, so I think it's some other island because I think this other country has her because they have this whole negotiation bit I remember too, where they're like, well, we'll let you use Lady Kong and da. Yeah, so they have this whole thing where they ship Lady Kong and Lady Kong, of course, has like this male version of Fay Ray that she's into, like a male blonde guy. Like, and then you got, of course, Sarah Connor on the other end with Kong, and she's the doctor that helped bring Kong back to life because it literally picks up where this movie leaves off. You see Kong falling from the Empire or the Twin Towers, and you'll see him laying there dead and all that kind of stuff. And then it cuts to him in this big, huge facility, and they're literally giving this heart transplant. It's crazy as shit.
Yeah, giant. I do want to.
And then they have this whole thing where like Kong's like all supercharged from his heart and shit, but he's gonna blow and like it just goes crazy. I love the movie. It's so nuts. Sorry.
Ron Shusett is the lead writer on that from Alien, Total Recall.
Okay, so different writer. Okay.
Yeah.
So Tom, at the end, does Kong turn on a microwave and die?
No, but he does die, I think, from a heart attack thing or whatever. Like his heart gives out or whatever. But yeah, I'm trying to remember. Does he live or die? He has a baby in it too. That's the other thing. Oh, he doesn't have a baby. The girl does. The Lady Kong. But yeah.
Yeah, wasn't that like Mighty Joe Young? Doesn't it lead to Mighty Joe Young, or am I thinking of something else?
Well, Mighty Joe Young is more of a stepson to Kong. It's not related as far as
he's smaller
story wise, but it was the guys who made the original King Kong wanted to make another Kong, but Son of Kong didn't do well. And plus, they didn't know where to go with it story wise. So Mighty Joe Young was just another kind of version of that kind of a story. But it was just a lot of the same people made it, and a couple of the same cast are in it. So people just always considered it like the third Kong film unofficially, if that makes sense.
It's Denham's best movie. He's great in that.
Yeah, he's not even Denim in it, but yeah.
He's
so weird.
Character. There he is. This is the Carlo Rambaldi.
Or are you talking about Son of Kong? Son of Kong, I like with Denim, yeah.
No, I remembered him in Mighty Joe Young, and I forgot he was.
But he's in Mighty Joe Young, but he's not playing Denim. Yeah, but he's a different character. Yeah,
studio, wasn't it? Like
no, it's RKO. It's all the same studio. Like I said,
different character.
Just different characters. Yeah, it's kind of like like I said, like a stepson of sorts or whatever you want to call it, kind of a spin-off, but not exactly in the same universe, kind of thing.
Kong has gone from one jungle to a concrete jungle. Oh,
here we go with the whole 4 shots of the big Kong.
Yep, this is the Carlo Rambaldi build.
Yeah, and this is where people actually got to see the damn thing because they called in for 5,000 extras.
There he is.
And they did the same thing for the Twin Tower scene, and 30,000 people showed up.
And he looks so stiff here.
They ended up having to start making people leave and put up barricades and shit because the city people were like, "You're gonna collapse the foundation. You've got too many people." And then at the end of the night, it got so crazy that a bunch of people started tearing shit off of Kong. In fact, somebody stole one of his eyeballs. So the second night of shooting, Kong is missing an eyeball and shit like that. But so that's why they shoot it from the other angle. But yeah,
Still in my basement.
I'd imagine that thing got to be like the size and the weight of a bowling ball, man. Like, or even bigger, maybe.
Yeah, how do you run off with that?
Somebody did.
They had stuff in the 70s we can't get now, like Quaaludes. I'm assuming it gave people a lot of energy.
I was gonna say,
Well, you got like 30,000 people. Like, what are you gonna do? Right? Like, it's like a riot, basically.
I'm gonna roll this thing home.
Mostly peaceful Kong.
Mostly peaceful.
And I love the matching they had to do here, because this is another story that Rick Baker was talking about. He's like, I did all this stuff. I'm like banging and shit. They're like, no, you can't do that. Like, what do you mean? Well, we got to match it with what they shot. So they watched the footage, and he's like, all he does is this.
That's a lot of Rick Baker's old stories. Is like,
so he's like, I did all this shit, and then I had to end with. Because that's all the Kong could do, because they couldn't get his arms up high enough to do anything else, and they could barely get it to move. And I believe it's still the biggest animatronic built to this day at 40 feet tall. Because even the Kong they had at Universal was just the upper torso, right?
Yeah, they essentially, and they had all sorts of like rigging tricks and that sort of thing. Like, I think his hands were up on cables to support the weight.
See, and that's what Ramboldi would have rather done, is built like 2 or 3 or 4 Kongs with different whatever they would see, because that's what
different functions. Yeah,
well, that's what Rick Baker fortunately did get to do, because he's like, there's like 4 different masks, right? There's the regular Kong where he just has a resting face, the smiling Kong,
angry
Kong, the blowing Kong, you know, like, yeah. So there's several different Kong faces,
cheeks,
yeah, and those had little bladders in the cheeks, yeah.
There's bladders in the nose on this one, and you see that one.
Yeah, there's one that's got more animatronics, and then there's one that's just meant to have like a stationary face. So they actually had multiple versions of each. So yeah, you're right about that too. Yeah. So they had one that would fit with the animatronics, so they could actually do the snarls and all that kind of stuff. And then
when it snarls, and also when he really smiles, a bladder, the cables pull upward, but then a bladder pushes the nose up slightly.
Yep. And they tried to make sure that they did it as realistic as possible. And that's the thing is, Rick was constantly battling between. He's like, I could have done more realistic, right? He's like, I could have done full on. As we've seen, he proved that with the Disney version of Mighty Joe Young. If you've seen that from the 90s, it looks amazing. Like we brought it up earlier in the show. Like, I can't imagine how Kong would have looked had he'd been able to do that. Because that's a full on, like, what the hell's the name of the type of puppetry that is? Where you have like a guy with all the stilts and
it's done similarly to rod puppetry.
It is, but it's a Japanese puppetry, and I can't remember the name of it.
Rod puppetry is the Japanese.
Like kabuki, or not kabuki, but
it's shadow puppets and stuff like that. But this is his death scene, by the way. I wanted to stop and enjoy this moment when
this was supposedly reshot. Yeah,
all he leaves is his hat.
Imagine that phone call. The audience really loved hating you. Can you come back and get killed?
He got off lucky here though, because otherwise he'd have had to face so much shit. He was gonna get fired, probably sued. That's what I love about the beginning of Son of Kong is Denim is dodging
all the lawsuits. That's right.
All the lawsuits.
It's easier in 1940. This guy was going to have real problems.
Oh yeah, he'd have been brought up on some criminal charges probably.
The new Kong is bigger because of the fact that he has to face Godzilla.
Oh yeah, it's a totally different Kong.
Yeah,
that Kong has more in common with the Toho Kong than it does with the original
exactly.
Kong.
I'm really shocked that it was filmed later, because I thought it was like a setup and payoff that he falls into the footprint of Kong and later on gets.
It feels like it.
Footprint of Kong, yeah, it does.
But the historian that I watched a video of that he interviewed, it was a historian who wrote a book about the movie, and he was also interviewing the cinematographer and Jack O'Halloran and a couple other people that worked on the film at the same time in this panel thing, and that's what he had said. So, and nobody corrected him. So,
and that's the Queensboro Bridge, isn't it, Teague?
Yeah, That is Queensboro Bridge. There's usually more cars, but the amount of cabs you see is accurate to any time of the day or night.
Okay, the guy I was trying to think of before, the other actor, Albert Popwell. That's who it was. Who was originally cast as Kong.
That'd be a good name for someone for him to step on.
So he was the guy who actually played. If you guys know who he is, he played Clint Eastwood's partner in one of the Dirty Harry movies. He was the bad guy in the other one. He's the guy that pops up in all the Dirty Harry movies, but plays different characters. Yeah. I played the pimp, I think, in Magnum Force. I think it was. Then he played his partner in another one or whatever. And then
What a dream to be in these miniatures like this.
Oh, I love this. This is amazing shit here. And again, I think Chris is right. I think if you had a shot, like at this point, I'm not even sure if they knew they had that much experience. I mean, they'd done a lot of miniature shooting in the 50s and 60s, but even to this point, I don't think they knew about as much as they do now about the lenses and stuff, like the advancements,
camera a bit,
the bigatures and stuff that you got out of the late 90s and aughts and stuff like that. They started to learn.
Well, you see the difference too.
Yeah, absolutely. Like look at Lord of the Rings, for instance, was the example I was going to jump to, because they figured out how to shoot miniatures and make them look like they're the actual scale that they're supposed to be or whatever.
And they're so beautiful to look at. I mean, that's one of the things. That's why I keep diving back into the special features of those, just watching those guys carve that stuff out of foam. And, you know, it's like the scene where they're, it's a deleted scene, but where they're going through the caves and that avalanche of skulls go past them. And it was all tiny skulls, but they shot it just right. And it looks spectacular. And again, Lord of the Rings, you know, it also has a look to it that's of its time. It's not 100% photorealistic, but if it was, I mean, so looking at the latest, you know, Disney Star Wars movies, to credit the VFX artists, like they got some real hyper realism in there, but it no longer felt special. It just felt, you know, it's like, oh, wow, okay, it looks what you'd expect it to look like in real life, but so
terrible story tore you out of the effect, right?
It wasn't even that. It wasn't the, like, I don't think the effects felt special anymore, you know, even, and again, I am unapologetically a fan of the Star Wars prequels. But all the things that people complain about, I absolutely love. And there was a lot of miniatures in those too. It was very colorful. There was some artifice to it, but it felt like the artist's fingerprints were there. And that is what really makes me enjoy it. But
okay,
you know,
I got to cut in. I'm sorry, Chris. Irrigodzilla. I don't know how to pronounce that word. See you later. Thanks for stopping in.
Thank you,
Christopher, I think one of the things that kind of screwed the prequels is that because George is such a tech guy, he was emphasizing the CGI that they were doing. So they didn't really focus on the miniatures because to him that was like, oh, we already done that well before. So
yeah, well, there was a guy, unfortunately, I have a lot of interviews with practical effects artists on my own channel. One of them that unfortunately got lost was with Fawn Davis, who did the Mustafar scenes, the miniatures for that. And all of that.
Those were amazing.
Yeah. And that was mostly miniatures. I mean, the compositing was there and there were digital elements, but like the lava flows were, glycerin and like lit from underneath, and a lot of the magma.
Lit from underneath, that's the trick.
Yeah, and a lot of the magma shooting up, they actually went to, somebody told them about somewhere in Iceland, I think, where there was a volcanic eruption going on, and they went and shot footage of the magma spurts, and then they just comped them in along with the miniatures. So those are real magma.
And it matches up perfectly.
Yeah, it looks spectacular. And then was it for Naboo, which was also, there were a hell of a lot of miniatures for Naboo. All the waterfalls, that was a mixture of salt and flour. So when they would pour the salt, it would look like frothing water. And when the air would catch the flour, it would look like the mist that would spray off of waterfalls. And they just comped that in as well. So, you know,
George
yeah.
Obsessed was on those waterfalls for like 20 minutes in the special edition. It's like, consorted with some hydrologists about how loud it would be. Like he's just like really overthought that one. Like he's proud of that scene.
Oh, it's like hey, I owe George Lucas a lot because he's the guy that was like the first one, even before James Cameron, to push the technology in ways that we all use now. Me as an independent filmmaker uses all the time and could never have had access to on my budgets. So I will always be grateful to George Lucas for having that kind of autistic level of thought that goes into these sorts of things. But yeah, the prequels and Lord of the Rings, these are examples of the practical and the digital coming together. And also, using the technology of the hardware, like Tom pointed out, what would you call it? The way that the lenses are crafted specifically for certain cameras, and understanding that when you shoot things at higher frame rate, the way you light them. With a lot of miniatures, you have to shoot them with the aperture closed down super small to get the maximum depth, because anything that's shallow depth of field feels like a miniature. So, eliminating that depth of field, helps with that, but then you have to blast it with light. So lighting these miniatures with these super hot lights, that when you're on set looks like everything's going to be blown out, and still knowing how to do it right. All of these things are, the results of decades and generations of different filmmakers building on top of everyone else's knowledge. And, it's like, and that's why I kind of get irritated when I hear people bag on the effects of movies too readily, like what we see with Kong or Aliens or whatever. And you just want to say to them, like, look, it may seem quaint to you now, but at the time it was groundbreaking. And it's one of the stepping stones that have led to things looking so good. But what we've learned is now, like I said, the scene that comes to mind for me is what was it?
Can I interject here? I wanted to point something out in this scene. I paused it.
Oh, go ahead.
So I can mention this. The gorillas don't swim. And that's one of the things that's brought up in the film.
Thank you.
And yet you see him going across the Hudson River right now.
His feet are touching the ground. That's
what I think is going on. I don't think, because I was telling Emma last night, he's not swimming, he's walking across. And I think it's made clear visually that that's what he's doing.
He just thought, in case the babes are watching, he wanted to act like he could swim. He's like, yeah, I got it.
And there's the Queensboro Bridge again.
Well, I was just going to say, though, when it comes to, it's all about the artist, though, that's doing it. So, for example, watching Rise of Palpatine, the scene where they're in the Death Star crash site with all the waves and stuff, that looks super realistic. The effects artists did a great job of the realism there, but I didn't care because it just looked too realistic. There was no artist's fingerprints in it. But at the same time, you get something like Skull Island, which I didn't think was a very good movie, but you had Crash McQuarrie, one of the great designers of all time, working on creating Skull Island, the creatures and again, I didn't like the movie all that much, but the scene where he fights the octopus and ends up eating it, this is just like great fun stuff. And I hate using this word, but the skull walkers, like all that stuff you could tell he was having a great time designing it. It was just a shame that it was such a cheesy story that.
Hold on. The Hudson River at its deepest point is 200 feet. 290.
Right, at Manhattan's Constitution Island.
Yeah, but where he's going across, the average depth is 30 feet.
So he should be waist high in that. He just wanted
his head maybe be sticking out, right? He'd be up to his shoulders. So it's about right.
It's about right.
Okay.
So what we got here, though, this scene always bugged me because why would he walk into these cables? It's just like I would want to avoid them if I was him.
It's such a Godzilla move.
It's like Godzilla wouldn't care because he's energized by that. Kong, on the other hand, would see this and that seems like a trap or something. I always was bothered by this scene, but still very cool pyrotechnics here.
Godzilla
Well,
don't
that's why
care.
they did it. Go Dino. It's like, why are we doing this? Because I said so. I am the mogul. Fuck
Him
you.
in that deep Italian accent.
But for what you're saying, Chris, basically what I think it comes down to, and this is my basic theorem on stuff, is that if you have the audience engaged, they'll forgive a lot. But if they're not, like there's something wrong with the story and everything else, then they'll start to notice things. And then they'll start to complain about things. And those things that are noticeable are what they immediately focus on because it's the most easy thing, even though it might be just that what the actual writing didn't engage them.
Yeah, well, what is it? CinemaSin says no movie is without sin, and that's true. My favorite movies, I can see the little plot holes and stuff. Other people try and use them to pick them apart, but like you said, I think there's different forms of storytelling. For me, why I like the prequels is even though there's flaws in the acting and you can find plot holes, I still believe that there's an emotional core that runs through all three of those movies that does make sense, and therefore I can forgive a lot and enjoy the movies. Aliens, there's a plot hole. There's plot holes, and then there's things that are what I'd say that they're plausible, but they're never addressed, and people try and pick at those as if they're plot holes. But they're not. You don't have to have every little thing explained to you. I think as long as, like you said, the audience is engaged and there's an emotional core to the story that makes sense, and the characters don't contradict themselves in terms of who their characters are, yeah, you can forgive a lot. Was it Edgar Rice Burroughs? Like his stories would stop making sense sometimes completely, but you were just so engaged. You're like, yeah, I don't care. I'm having a good time.
Well, one of my go-tos is Die Hard, because ultimately, there's points where Hans is explaining what the plan's going to be, and why
that's when they
told
monologue.
his men beforehand.
Hey, I want to get back to this film, man. We keep drifting, and it's like Tom.
I relate to this part.
Tom,
I hallucinate. I hallucinate on Fidelity. Sorry,
Tom. This is the part you brought up earlier that you had problems with, because it's beating over the viewer's head, the connection between the two towers on the island and the Twin Towers in New York. And what were your thoughts on, should they have even done that, or should they have left that out? Or did you leave?
Tom muted.
Tom,
if you're trying to talk, you're muted.
Because he brought something up about this earlier, and here we are at the scene. I wanted to get his input on it. Oh, well.
We chased him away. We drifted. Speaking of Tokyo Drift. No, just kidding.
Kong is the original terrorist.
Yeah, the phone call. He just grabs a restaurant phone, and while he's on the phone, that's when Kong sneaks his arm in to the restaurant to get her. See you, Joe.
So quiet.
And Kong starts looking at her through the window, and she has a freak out moment, and then she just goes, oh no, that's not another ape, that's my Kong. Here it is, peeking in the window. 10 minutes of lifting for you, Chris.
I apologize. I'm answering TurboTax questions. My wife is texting me and working on this animation thing at the same time. So, but I wanted to be here.
Do you consider your neighbors your dependents? Well, they do leech off my internet and my cable. So here we go. The giant hand gets used again. All the destruction he does, he's so careful when he goes through the door to get her.
He's a polite monster.
It's a nice
Is he
restaurant.
really?
He wants to make a good impression.
I think it's inconsistent, to be honest with you, because he's destructive 1 minute and then gently puts his hand through the doors. Now, this is interesting because they have the fighters here, but they get turned away. And I can't remember why.
comments. Could you imagine what they would do to New York City, to Manhattan, if they had tried that?
I wish they had. That'd have been so cool. Well, that was one of the big gags with Godzilla '97 was that, the monster's done less damage than you guys. I do love this giant shadow going by the priest, and the priest does the sign of the cross. Like, it's the beast.
It's like Roy of the World
from the Bible. He's only gentle with her. Yeah, but they kind of make it clear with if you guys paid attention to the Kong dance, there's clearly going to be some zug, which is what I think is what kills the women.
That's what the Islander thing.
The what? Islander?
Yes.
Oh, Islander. Oh, Matt lines really bad. This is one of those scenes
that's probably one of the few things that
Grodin's
character is right about is where he's like, yeah, just some priest gets dressed up and gets laid, basically. Yeah, that's
right.
Then they give the chick to Kong. Kong would probably eat her or toss her because she's not what. That's what makes Anne so special, is that she's not like anything he's seen before, right? Like that's the whole point.
Right. He's so not used to it. But I want to go back because you were gone for a minute, and I wanted to get your input because they just showed the twin stone towers and the twin towers.
Yeah, that thing.
And it's such a beating you over the head with something
that's what I was talking about earlier. Is like they did not need to go that obvious. Like they just needed to show it the one time and have Jeff or Jack going, oh yeah, I know where he's going clearly, and just you didn't have to beat us over the head. But then again, they're probably well aware that kids are going to this movie too. So I mean, I guess I'll give it a pass.
Believe me, I watched the movie with some people who really needed to see those two pillars. Then
sometimes things like
why
that.
Things are written at a fourth grade level.
On TV, this was the next night anyway. TV audience probably needed it more.
Well, there's that too, but yeah, like because the end of the
to be reminded,
we kind of went past it. Was actually the log scene where he's reaching for Jack is when the first night ended, which is one of the few occurrences of rear projection, because I think Jack is rear projected into a miniature set in that shot. But anyway, then it picks right up there the next night after they show a bunch of scenes from the night before. But yeah.
Again,
all right,
this
gentlemen.
three-part composite shot there.
We definitely have to do a special effects show someday because
please,
I would have such a great time doing it. And I've got, like I said, if you haven't seen my own channel, the Christopher Moonlight Productions channel, I've got a ton of interviews with practical effects artists. Unfortunately not Fawn Davis, that was the last one, but
I always wanted to do one with Doug Trumbull, and I never got it.
Yeah,
it always upset me because I admired his work so much.
Well, I've gotten, a lot of great stories from people, and a lot of the stuff that we're talking about now are things that they can comment on. I don't know if I've interviewed anyone that's worked on Kong, but, everything from, Starship Troopers. And by the way, Tom, I know you being a Verhoeven fan, my old boss, Alec Gillis, has Verhoeven stories from Starship Troopers as well.
My boss has a few, Dale Dye, because he worked on that film.
Was he fucking him? Was he fucking him the whole time?
Well, yes. I'll tell this story another time because I don't want to step on the the theme of this. But yes, he has a story where he was about to get yelled at by Verhoeven for something that was actually a producer's fault, and he just stood his ground with Verhoeven, and Verhoeven turned to the producers and went, "How dare you not give this man the time he needs to do the effects?"
Fuck you all!
You're fucking my movie.
And then after that, the producer came up to Alec and was like, "Why didn't you just lie?" And Alec looked at him and said, "Because I'm not a producer."
So I wanted to point out, and I said this to Anima last night. This scene is when he's climbing the tower. Is the one scene where they shouldn't have used blue screen and they should have used rear screen projection. It would have looked so much better.
It's funny, looking at these shots now, I even can think of practical effects solutions that would have worked then, that would have been possible then. But again, I have the benefit of, another couple of decades of knowledge of what other people did after that. So, gentlemen,
the Japanese would have used miniature lights to shine up at him.
Oh, well,
that's how they would have done it.
And there's ways you can turn the camera and all that. All right, you're gonna keep me going, but I actually have to go. I apologize, but at some point, yeah, I think we got to have a conversation about an effects Saturday or something, and maybe I can get one or two of my effects buddies to join us who will have stories to tell. But yeah, if you guys are interested, by the way, I'll just plug my own channel, Christopher Moonlight Productions. I've got interviews with a bunch of special effects artists that I think people would really enjoy. So check that out. And keep your fingers crossed for me, because I am going to be approaching a special talent for Escape from Planet Omega 12 to do a voice. I can't say anything because I don't want to jinx it, but it might be something you guys may be able to help me with behind the scenes, but I just don't want to say it on air.
Yeah. Let us know. Audio, what is it? How do you say it in Italian? Audio amico mio in Italian.
Oh, well, I'll just say adios amigos.
Well, that's what I'm doing that because that's what the producer of this movie would say.
Oh, okay.
Because he's Italian.
They don't say adios. Well, yes, but
it's how you say goodbye.
Arrivederci. Arrivederci.
Yeah, you can say
such a little man
but if you're
with such a big desk.
the familiar way of saying it in Italian is audio amico mio. That's how you say it. That's Italian.
I'm picking their nose.
I'm sorry, Italian.
All right, gentlemen, have a good one.
Take care, man.
Bye.
So here we are. We're approaching the end of the movie, and I think one of my favorite moments here is when he throws the canister at the guy with the flamethrower. I just love that. Yeah, the composites with the helicopters, not always good. I preferred the miniatures. Those eyes, look at that. Rick Baker. What a sweetheart. It knows where I'm so in love with you eyes from her. Oh, E. Clay Tomlinson gets a video. Play him a video. He deserves it on that one.
Okay. Okay.
Open your back door, baby. Loosen your hinges, I'll show you my key.
I just added one, and I don't see it in here.
Sorry, I was away again.
No problem, buddy.
Kong die yet?
Here it is. Die? This is from The Beekeeper.
Station agent there too. So, sure there's no back entrances into this place.
I put him through enough already. What do you say your name was? Currently I go by Adam Clay. Trust me, if there was a back entrance, I would have used it.
There you go.
I need to see that movie.
I just watched it with
just
anime.
like Gary. If there was a back entrance, he would have used it.
Yep, there you go. So yeah, we're in the closing moments of the film here. Kong's about to take on the military. There's the flamethrower scene. Hurts him and it makes him jump from one tower to the other tower, which I really loved in the theater. Oh my God, he jumped.
It was awesome.
And then he goes to the other building and just starts throwing shit at him.
Now, as a new arrival, I think today Kong would get a hearing and maybe some money to get by for a little while.
He would be declared a dreamer and
just parachute down one city public service worker with like a handful of documents. It's like, Mr. Kong, sir, you need to sign these. Here's your food stamp card.
There, he blows up the soldiers. He threw a canister that had fuel or something in it, and he ignites. That was awesome.
Yeah, imagine explosives on top
and
of the
he
World
seems to
Trade
be the only
Center.
one that's concerned about the female, the pilot of the one helicopter. But he still opens up on this Gatling gun. And it's like, no matter how big Kong is in this, he didn't have a chance against those miniguns.
He does.
He was
is this the move? Is this the movie he does the best in? Does he get 3 of these helicopters?
He gets 1.
He only gets 1. All right, so I guess his highest score is in the Peter Jackson movie.
Yeah, Peter Jackson, he gets 3.
Right.
He gets 1 by itself, and then he takes the other one and throws it into the other plane. I can tell you, Tom, I'm pretty sure that this isn't the producers or the director piloting these helicopters.
No, doubtful in this one.
Like Peter Jackson did.
No.
In this one, they're pretty realistic in the fact that he would not survive those miniguns. They would F him up.
It's masked fire, too.
Yeah, it would just blow chunks off him. And this is what I'm talking about.
Kind of does in this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
look at
pretty
the color
accurate.
of the blood in this. You can really see that they had matched the right color for all the chunky blood in this scene with King Kong. And in 1976, that's impressive because the 70s was chock full of orange blood.
Yeah, Outlaw Josie Wales is the same year, and the blood's not quite right in that movie.
Yeah, it was not right in that film. John Wayne did one of his police films too in about 75, 76, and blood was orange in that one. So we're just so lucky to have gotten the Brannigan. The blood in this was done just right, where the film picked it up as the right color.
I know it wasn't realistic, but Dawn of the Dead, I always kind of enjoyed the blood in that one.
Mm. You can see the corner of the mask on his eye there, the plastic. Because they were still using latex back then. They had not started with the foam rubber yet, or the silicone.
The bottom of Kong's eyelid is caucasoidal. Wow.
Here's the thing I had a problem with: how quickly she was down below, how she ended up getting down there. Because he falls to his death. Next thing you know, she's right there looking at him dying. But there's the eye. You can see the eye. They match the eye with Rick Baker's version.
Yeah, it takes several minutes in one of those big buildings. I mean, I went to the Empire State Building before, and that was a whole adventure just to get to the top of that. So I can only imagine how long it took for the World Trade Center.
Now, I'm going to point this out that we only got one shot of it, but what they did to create the crushed concrete was, and they hit it with the people standing around, was the crushed concrete was actually up higher where Kong is laying. He's up higher. And so to create that look that it's caved in, they had to raise the area that the Kong was going to be laying. So they hid that using the crowd. So it's seamless and it looks right.
That's what filmmaking is, problem solving like that.
I would never watch that movie. And there you can see along the seam line. Can you see the frame of Kong there through the fur where it's shiny? That was a mistake because it doesn't look right. It makes it look like he's got a wooden body, which he did.
And do you guys know of the ending that was cut off here?
No.
It didn't even make its way to the TVC version. You've got Dwan screaming for Jack, and notice she's not running towards Jack. She's just staying there, mobbed by
she's restrained.
Reporters.
Yeah.
Well, she's not so much restrained by anybody else but herself. And Jack notices that too. And you can see it on his face in the shot that's still in the film. Well, after all that's happening, there was one more shot that goes back to Jack. And Jack slowly walks away.
And that's in this version, and I like that. And it's and I never quite understood, is it because he felt that she's not really wanting him, or what is that?
She's in love with the rush. And like he says it to her earlier on. Like, I can never show you anything in the rest of your life to live up to what you've dealt with already, right? And that she's in love with being a star. She's already made the choice in the 2 or 3 scenes before that. Remember when he's like, I'm leaving, And he's like, come with me. And she's like, Jack, I can't, you know, kind of thing. He's like, fuck your contract, you know. But no, she's more worried about her stardom and all that shit. So yeah. Really
So
what it boils
it
down to.
ends
And
up
that
being
scene is
sort
kind of
tragic. Yeah.
it's almost, and that's what I'm saying. If you look, she's not being restrained by anybody.
No,
Like,
she's
she can-
self-restraining. Nobody's holding her
She's
back.
yeah, that's the whole point. And he sees that, and at that point, it's like, yep, I'm done. We're out. We're done. Yeah.
So nobody wins.
Yeah, it's you look. I like this movie. I don't care what people, you know. It gets poked fun at a lot. I like the movie. It came out when I was 12 years old. How old were you, Tom? In '76? Were you born yet?
I was -4.
Shit.
Yeah, no, the first time I saw this was on TV, and I have a funny story because it was still being shown on 2 nights yet at that point. Eventually they just started cutting it down and just showing the theatrical cut on television. But we were camping, we had a little black and white TV, and even though this is on a little black and white TV, the movie scared the shit out of me so bad that I cried and pissed and moaned, so my parents finally took us home, and we were camping in Iowa. So it was like a whole state over. So my dad was super pissed. But like, yeah, I was like, I didn't want to be anywhere. I was like, yeah, and it was just, it started my whole like love of Kong. Anything that scared me as a kid, I just grew up loving. So like, it just scared the shit out of me as a little kid. Like I was probably 3 years old. First time it was on TV, I saw it.
It's good. I love this film. And first time I saw it was at the Virginia Theater in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And I went to see it at the normal time, and then over the weekend I went with might have been my buddy Jim Woodward, but he drove, and we went to see it, or his dad drove us. I'm sorry, and we went to see the matinee, and it was great. I got to see it twice in the theater. Somebody said they saw it 4 times. Which one of you?
No, 3 times. And it was somebody in the chat.
Was that it? Just man, I would have killed to have seen it more than I would. I don't know about you, Tom. I used to collect even the prints from TV Guide. Like Superman,
yeah, I would always clip out ads and
clip out the ads, and I put them up on my wall. I love that.
Yeah, or I even have like scrapbooking. I'd have video scrapbooks too of when movies were coming out that I was into. Of course, I had the Topps cards. You know, our videotape before videotape back in the day would be the comic book adaptations, which we've talked about before. I do have a King Kong comic book adaptation. It is actually from the 60s, I believe. I can go grab it.
Was it based on anything, or was it
just the original Kong? I think it's based on. But
okay.
Like,
I
let me
don't
go grab
see
it.
that. I'd like to see some of the artwork in that. I was talking to Keith the other day because they're going to be doing a comic about one or a show about one of the comic publishers from back in the 60s. I'm like, let me know when you do one about Gold Key, because Gold Key was like one of my favorites, because they would have an artist paint the covers of the comics different than the artist that was doing the interior artwork, which was your typical standard pen and ink work. Whereas the covers were hand painted. Star Trek, Lost in Space, all of those. Good stuff.
Shame. We just
had to think to remember that.
industry.
Yeah, this is one I should probably get slabbed at some point if they even do this big of one.
Oh,
It's huge. It's very oversized.
We have Paul in the house.
Hey, Paulie.
You're muted, Gary.
I'm trying to
That's
avoid the
gorgeous,
glare.
man. It is
Well,
gorgeous.
bigger.
Wait.
Can you show interior artwork on it or no?
I don't really want to.
No,
Don't do it then.
No, don't
Don't
worry.
do it.
Don't open it. No.
Mom, stop.
It is old.
Stop. Oh my God.
It's not in
That's it.
perfect shape. I mean, it's got some dings on the back. But yeah, I mean, authorized edition.
I also like your
68.
3D Jaws.
68. That's when it came out.
Look at that artwork.
Oversized. Let's see who worked on it. Alberto Giolitti and George Wilson did the cover. Okay, here we go. Perfect page to open up to. Look at that.
Damn.
So yeah, so this is predating the Dino De Laurentiis one, but it's put out by Whitman. I don't know if I'm too familiar with them. I don't know how much it's really worth. I think I paid like 20, 30, 40, something like that for it. I don't remember. If anybody knows what it's worth, maybe I'll get it slabbed if they actually slab this bigger ones. Now I'm all by myself.
No.
Nobody else.
Showing and telling.
No one was looking.
Yeah, Martin, come on, man.
So yeah, no, the movie did very well. It was even a bigger hit, I believe, on video, of course, being that it came out right at the time. It was one of Paramount's earlier videos, I remember. But I had the TV cut for years, so yeah. Yeah, what's everybody else's memories of it?
Super
I
late
saw it
at
in
night
Manhattan.
on cable.
I saw it in a theater in Manhattan, so it's pretty cool.
I'm too. I was too young at the time to remember if I saw it in theaters. I want to say that I did, but I'm not positive. I remember more seeing it on cable.
Yeah, because
But
like
yeah,
TNT.
that was. Yeah,
After
that
seeing it, I
was,
remember thinking nothing bad will ever happen at the World Trade Center again. That's like the GARP rule.
All right, starting a new poll for you guys. That's why I couldn't remove Tom. I'm doing a poll. So which one is your favorite before everybody goes? I've got the 1933, 1976, or the 2005 version of Kong.
My channel just voted. I took mine down just now. It's 76-1 on my channel.
For which one?
I gave him 4 choices: 33, 76, 05, and Skull Island.
That one doesn't count. That's not really
no
King
one.
Kong.
It got like 1 vote. It didn't do very well
because it's not King Kong.
76 narrowly won. People, it's everybody's part. Like, I think everybody has a sentimental attachment to this movie for all the reasons we said. It was on TV a lot. Even if you're like Gary, my age, you saw it in a theater and you have some memory of that. It was an event to see the movie.
And I love the 33 version. I really do. But this is the version that came out when I was a kid. And I love this movie.
That's cool.
And right now,
wasn't-
it's at 57% with the 33 version at 29. And the
Yeah,
05
that's my
version at
favorite
14.
too. That's the one I grew up with because that was the one they played the most on TV when I was growing up.
One thing
I
that
did
didn't-
see the 2005 version like 3 times.
And don't get me wrong, I do enjoy the 05 version, but it's too long. He made it way too long. And
Go ahead.
you and I talked about this before, Tom.
I
that
like
is
it,
my
but-
one complaint. So what is your thoughts on that one?
You're not wrong. I can't argue with the overindulgent aspects of it, but it's like if somebody's going to do Kong, I want them to be overindulgent. Like, if that makes
Well,
sense.
you want to see Kong. It's sort of like the mistake that what's his name made with Godzilla 2014.
Yeah.
Is he tried to pull a Jaws thing, and I said, well, Jaws happened because it was an accident that it was that way. You're doing it intentionally, and the problem is your movie's called Godzilla because people love Godzilla and they want to see more Godzilla, and you said no, basically. That's why he didn't come back. What is that guy's name? I forget his name.
But that was Gareth Edwards.
Roland Emmerich?
Gareth Edwards. That's it.
I think minus one has like perfect pacing, the perfect amount of Godzilla. Like if you're gonna not have him in the entire movie, that's like the way you do it.
Yeah, when you see him, he's cool as could be and doing really cool Godzilla-like stuff, right? I mean, it's awesome.
The one
best
thing,
attack
I will
sequence
say
ever.
about that movie that I liked was that Godzilla's story and the soldier story are the same story. Their arc is the same. And it's something a lot of people don't notice. It's like, yeah, that's why when he collapses on that boat at the end and he looks up and Godzilla just sort of looks at him empathetically, not sympathetically, empathetically, like, hey, man, we just went through the same fight. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat. That's kind of neat that did that. But we needed more Godzilla. Thanks for playing though. And I also hated the elephant feet.
I wonder what it's like in black and white. I might see.
You wonder what it's like in black and white. I mean, your feet or Godzilla's feet?
No, that Godzilla's feet, of course. I have plenty of pictures of my own feet in black and white all over my apartment.
Oh my God, food fetish.
All right, I'm going to add this.
Is this where we find out he has an OnlyFans?
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen. Right.
Let's see where we're at right now. It's 30, 30, 40.
10 votes. That's how do you do the math?
Come on, guys. Everybody vote. There's 31 of you watching right now.
I already voted, but I guess I could vote again, right?
No, you can only vote once, I think, the way it's set up.
Why should this be like unlike other elections?
Well, if you're dead, you can vote again.
Yeah, only if you're dead.
I died of embarrassment when my joke about hallucinating in Midtown made me relate to Kong.
But by the way,
it's
the
growing.
one thing
It's growing.
Boom, 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 boom. It's like the sickbay monitor in Star Trek.
Uh-oh. It's getting narrower. Oh, crap.
Jim, his vitals are going down.
Uh-oh.
Ooh, this is interesting.
One thing I hated about the Godzilla was the trailer they had for it, the Edwards one, had shots in it that had Godzilla in it in the trailer, and they weren't in the movie. Like when those doors are closing.
Yeah, when the doors, that was actually a composite that was done just for the trailer.
Yeah, I hate when they do that.
It's okay. It doesn't bother me.
I'm so used to it now.
It's sort of like a comic book cover. My comic book covers, you've seen them, Shinatsky. Those shots aren't in the book. It's because I wanted to do them because I thought they'd look cool. And,
yeah, but that's still part of the actual like package, as it were.
Oh, Anima, you can still vote. You've seen two of them.
She's not American. She's not allowed to vote.
I'm sorry. Yeah, forget it, honey. You're from Vienna.
She can vote in New York now.
We bouncing around a lot.
This is really kind of blowing my mind.
If you come in the country illegally, then you can vote.
That seems to be the case.
Now.
It's New York
now with the 05.
I got about 24 votes, and it's not like 76 destroyed the other movies. It was only a narrow favorite. It was like 38 to 31 or something. The number should be endless. Got them all.
And
on my poll, it was 37% 76, 25% 33, 25% 05, and 12% for Skull Island. Sorry.
So I wanted to go back and say that the one thing I liked about what Peter Jackson did is he brought the heart into the story, which was what's missing in the 33 version, because Ann Darrow just has no feelings towards Kong at all. She's just horrified of him. He's just a monster. Whereas with the second film, it felt almost overly romantic. What the fuck? Okay, you guys are just being assholes now. Seriously. I love my audience, man. I love our audience, but I swear to God, guys, I would throw things at you right now for that. 33, 33, 33. Really?
So that means the 1933 one wins because it's on screen. The number's on screen 4 times.
Why not? You win. You win,
Right.
Teague. You win.
I said, yeah, I suggest a new slate of electors be submitted.
Oh my God. I went with an odd number specifically. Oh. This is one of those moments where I ask, why did I ever give up sniffing glue? So 33.
Would that be Gorilla Glue?
Pick
the thing that's wonderful.
Stop sniffing glue.
Yeah, hello, Dave. Like all his vices that he gave up for that movie. 33%. Who's the jerk? It's one of you guys in our chat, in the audience. I mean, in our panel.
I bet it's Monkey Jeeves. It's in his name.
Shinatsky. It's Shinatsky.
How do you mathematically even do that? Like, I don't even understand.
It's evil laugh.
There's
I get a
15
feeling-
votes. Okay, so 5, 5, and 5. That's how. Okay, never mind. I'm like trying to figure the math out. in
I'm
my
just
head. I was
telling you.
making it too complicated.
Somebody, there you go. There you go. Thank you. Oh my God.
Uh-oh.
Please. We cannot end this show. That's
He's not going to let the show end, kids, unless you fix this.
This is ridiculous. Oh my God.
Kong, where did
Somebody
he go
please
wrong?
make this a commanding win for which one do you want to win?
We're at. All right, come on. Somebody give me one. Just give me one.
Ladies and gentlemen, somehow Biden is winning this poll as well.
Some woodwork with glues and resins. Yeah, I bet you're high as hell right now.
Well,
there we
Gary,
go.
I don't know.
I ended the poll. There it is.
I guarantee you I did not stop sniffing glue. I sure as hell don't know what's going on right now.
So there's our final poll.
When did we get to the crime bill?
The 1933 version wins. You guys are jerks. I love you guys.
But by the way, just to warn you, Biden, I think that Kamala's trying to kill you.
What is this?
That's the poll on my channel.
On your screen. Okay. All right. That's cool. Oh, that's it, guys. I want to thank everybody for joining Tom and me today and our wonderful, illustrious panel. Boy, Chris got really full of wind today, didn't he? I was just like sitting there going, I really want to talk right now, but you've got so much. He's saying stuff that I like, but I'm like, I really want to cut in. I'm sorry, I'm going to cut in. I want to thank Anima Confusa, love of my life. Penny was just an awesome member of our crew that follows us show by show. Dragon Ruse, Jonathan Hancock, the Ginger Menace, Joe's Atmosphere, who left, Chris Moonlight, who came and went, like so many of the people in my life, and Zax, aka Kyle. Taylor Swift is greater than Disney, Star Wars, and MCU. Thank you. Crazy name. DJ Ronnie G, Daryl Brewer, Read by Nature, Andy Morrow, Tim's Talk. Let's see who else. The Lovely Sherry, Zax, Alabama Hellbilly. And who'd you say it was, Teague? Is Lieutenant Governor? What did you say?
What? Oh, Clayton Endicott is Odo in the show Benson, where he's like the lieutenant governor of a New York-like state.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Hellbilly. Okay.
And Tracy Gold's cute sister is in it.
Yeah.
Got cute when she was
Ray
old.
Lacard is here. E. Clay Thomason, RJ Godzilla 81, John Chipola, Mark Harkness, Disney Sheepherder, FKHC 2005, aka Tim, Anthony Mark, Pete Dencat, Low Spec Linux Laptop, 6, Sagacious 6, Jedi 6, no matter what, he's 6. Jeff PDX1, Keegan's Random Videos, Victor Fountain. Shouldn't it be Fontaine? Vic Fontaine, right? Teague? Vic Fontaine?
That's the Deep Space Nine character. I don't know if that's that person's intention to be Vic Fontaine.
I don't know.
or
It
Vic
seems,
Fountain.
I mean, that would be what I would think. Anyway,
I would think so.
Hasty version of Godzilla, era Godzilla. How do you pronounce that? Heisei era Godzilla. Radioactive. And whenever I see Radioactive's name, I just think of the song Radioactive by Jimmy Page and his band.
The Firm.
The Firm. They broke up pretty quickly. Ariel Ballet, Vancouver Comic Junkie, Jedi Master Raven, Words and Pictures. Is this from you, Tom? Sorry, I'm back, or is that a person's name?
We have a super chat from Godzilla himself.
Slip you this if you cover a certain reptile soon. Well, what do you think, Tom? Should we do that? Latino
I'm sure we
Slam?
might do a few of those leading up to Godzilla versus Kong, because that was kind of the impetus for this, even though I got a month ahead of myself. Have we done Dune yet?
No, we have not. And
Okay,
I
we gotta
want
do that
Andre
within
here
I think
when
the
we
next
do it.
show, I think.
Andre's got to be here when we do that, dude.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do. Because
I'll
that
talk to
comes
him, too.
out the first week of March.
Friday.
So.
He popped on Friday for our birthday, our anniversary.
Yeah.
It was very sweet of him.
Yep.
He just popped on. MK Ultra and Hojo are here. Our good friend Hojo, of course, works with Fund My Comics. And I love the guy. I love him and Luke. Two great guys, man. And of course, our good friend Polly in the chat, Latino Slant. So I'll tell you what, for $2, I will say that we will be doing a Godzilla film. And maybe doing more than just one. We should maybe do the first Godzilla and then, what is it? Minus one. Should we do
Oh,
both?
yeah. If hopefully it'll be out on video by then, but we'll definitely probably have to do like Godzilla versus Kong
And
and stuff like that.
even
yeah.
if we don't have a copy of it, I'm
The
going
original.
to convert everything to black and white. Because
I saw the black and white.
Yeah, it's great.
I've been told it's the way it should have been released, is what I was told. They said that it's better in black and white. What do you guys think?
I think it is.
All right, so
yeah,
definitely we will be doing that soon. Heisei era Godzilla. Heisei? Nobody's answering you.
Man, you better ask John. John is.
I'm going to go with Heisei unless it says different.
Heisei is what I've heard otherwise.
I do have.
How about if we
soft
change it
spot
to
for
hentai?
Final Wars.
Hentai era Godzilla.
There we go. I know what that is.
Now we don't have any. We don't have.
Oh
any,
no, they say he's got to go.
He's gonna go. So here we go.
Go Godzilla.
I don't have a King Kong. Thank you, but I do have this one.
One ugly motherfucker.
And he said, "Thank you." Did you hear it? Right there at the end, he said, "Thank you." So I want to thank everybody for being here today. And we're going to get the heck out of here and have the rest of our Saturday. Hope everybody has a great Saturday. I hope you enjoyed our talk. And I tell you, Chris, I love Chris, man. That guy is a lot of knowledge and about special effects. And I really do. Tom, would you join us on that if we ever did that? A show about just special effects?
Sure, I'd try. Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
I'd want us to also cover Stargate. That has some of my favorite
the movie
effects. Yeah, the movie.
Yeah, I love the movie. I love the series too, but I would never cover the series. But I would cover the movie.
Speaking of Roland Emmerich, we count that as Godzilla? I'm sorry, Snosky.
Hey, look, despite the stupidity of so much that was in that film, I do like the fact that there are some funny, great moments in that film. And my favorite is still bitching about the military doing more damage to New York City than Godzilla. It was great. I thought that was hilarious.
If they had called the monster anything else, it was so different from Godzilla, it would probably have lasted. But the name was jaundiced people against it, including me.
You know what, though, I kind of do to myself when I'm watching that?
What?
Is I convince
oh my
myself
God, I hope this doesn't
Godzilla
end
actually...
the way. Oh, please don't end up dirty.
No. When I'm watching it, I just look at it from like, okay, in their world, Godzilla actually exists as a movie. So just like in the real world, they would just name it Godzilla just because it's a big ass fucking lizard. That's what we would do. We would have no name. You know what I mean? Like if it really happened, if something like that were to show up, we'd just call it Godzilla because we'd have nothing else to compare it to, right? You know, like be like some huge fucking T-Rex is walking down New York. Walking through New York, destroying it. It's about 10 times the size of a real T-Rex, though. So it's like Godzilla. Yeah.
I miss the days when our mayor was only as dumb as the New York mayor in that movie.
And Anima, I love the series. I just said I love the series. I just don't think we'll cover it on here. This is really, I want this to be about movies. So that we love. So
are you talking about the Godzilla series or something else?
No, Stargate. She was talking about Stargate.
Her pal from the Blacklist is in it. She'll barely recognize him. I'm blanking on the name. Ultron.
Spader.
James Spader.
James Spader. Yeah. So, hey, Brian, what time is it?
That's it. Show's over.
I guess we're done. All right, guys, we're out of here. Thanks a lot. Come back next week.